This is the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. The new way Wyoming wakes up.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming. From the Cowboy State Daily News Center, I'm Mac Watson. Tensions between Governor Mark Gordon and Secretary of State Chuck Gray erupted again Thursday during a meeting of the Wyoming Board of Land Commissioners concerning attainable housing. Cowboy State Daily's David Madison reports Gordon told Gray to, quote, shut up during a debate and invited him to step out of the room.
Secretary Gray introduced an amendment. As the debate continued, there was a little bit of crosstalk where Superintendent of Public Instruction Megan Degenfelder was speaking and Chuck Gray was speaking at about the same time. And it's the chair's job, Governor Mark Gordon, to keep order. And he apparently had had enough because he raised his voice. He told Chuck Gray to shut up and to stop. And then he stood up and kind of pointed as though, would you like to step outside? I did not hear him say it this time, but the body language was pretty clear. In response, Chuck Gray said the governor was violating his own rules of decorum, and then the meeting took a pause. When they came back, they continued to debate the amendment and ultimately tabled it.
In a statement to Cowboy State Daily after the tense exchange, Gray said his amendment would ensure that state projects, quote, mirror what President Trump has done at the federal level, unquote. Gray also accused Gordon of being a, quote, liberal, unquote. Superintendent of Public Instruction Megan Degenfelder has apologized for her department's release of unredacted student information in a public records request. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that Degenfelder says the release was the result of human error and those involved have been reprimanded.
It was a public apology because her office released unredacted student information pursuant to a public records request that the Sweetwater County School District Superintendent had filed. A parent filed for the same batch of records, and according to the leader of that parent group, also received a file dump of unredacted information. Degenfelder said that the people involved in this disclosure were reprimanded and aren't handling public records anymore.
The error came to light after a member of a group of parents in Sweetwater County School District Number 1 announced publicly that the district had asked the department in a public records request for a substantial amount of parent complaints. I'll be back with more news from the Cowboy State Daily News Center right after this. Here's another driving safety tip from WYDOT. Download the Wyoming 511 app for hands-free information on your mobile device. This has been another safety tip from the Wyoming Department of Transportation.
My name is Joanne, and I'm a mom of 6 here in Casper, Wyoming. When you raise a family here, you don't just think about today, you think about the future, where your kids will build their lives and where your grandkids might grow up. What worries me is that my kids will have to leave Wyoming to find good, high-paying jobs. That's why Build Wyoming matters to me. Data center jobs are high-quality, high-paying jobs, the kind that give families a real reason to stay and build a future here. Give our kids and grandkids a reason to stay, and they will.
Build Wyoming with Prometheus Hyperscale. Go to buildwyoming.com.
Cowboy State Daily News continues now. Gillette-based L&H Industrial built some of the massive hardware that helped the Artemis II rocket blast off on Wednesday, taking astronauts to the moon for the first time in 50 years. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that this isn't the first time the company has built components for NASA.
So that was L&H's first job for NASA, was redesigning these crawlers to carry that much weight. But it's also got to make sure that it's shunting all that force away from the rocket, because you can't have that bouncing back up and hitting the rocket. All that heat, all that force, it's going to destroy the rocket before it ever takes off.
L&H spokeswoman Brittany Thomas tells Cowboy State Daily that the deflector plates were actually the second project L&H handled for Artemis II. Now that the new almost 1,300-foot-long, 180-foot-tall Yellowstone Bridge is finished, demolition crews are dismantling the 65-year-old bridge that stood in its place. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports that the teardown is expected by the end of the year, and the new bridge should last almost 100 years.
The concrete deck of the old bridge is being slowly dismantled, starting at one end and going across. And as the spring and summer progress, they're going to take down the steel supporting beams and then the piers that have been keeping this bridge up for the last 60 years. And the new bridge, which cost over $118 million and is over 1,000 feet long, not only is a much bigger project, it actually has less of an impact on the landscape.
The Yellowstone River Bridge project began in 2023 2023 and officially opened in 2025. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting that daily newsletter button at cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Mac Watson for Cowboy State Daily.
For a Native American child living in poverty, opportunities are limited and filled with obstacles. Generational trauma, poverty, and a disconnect from their culture. These children are looking for a new direction, a chance at a better life for their families and communities. At St. Lebre Indian School, Native American children get that chance.
I like that they try to keep us safe. I do feel safe here.
My favorite thing about Lebre is how they incorporate our cultural values into our everyday education.
St. Lebre is more than a school. Here, every child gets the education and tools to become the change makers of tomorrow.
Graduating from Lebre will allow me to attend bigger universities and colleges through their scholarship programs.
Learn more about how St. Lebre is helping lead our children to a future that is proud, prosperous, and free. Learn more at stlebre.org.
Good morning, Wyoming. And the world. Yes, it's Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake, right here on cowboystatedaily.com. My name's Jeff, filling in for Jake one more day. Well, and then next week as well. Yes, Jake is on vacation. I am in Sheridan, Wyoming, wherever you are, however you're listening to the program this morning. I appreciate you tuning in. You can join the program or send me a text, 307-620-8866. We got a jam-packed show again today. We have 13 guests again today. It's nonstop. Yes, it's like candidate day today on Good Friday. I think we have 3 or 4 of them today. So let's start one with the show. Election season's gearing up. Candidates throwing their hats in the ring. It's about to get crazy, or maybe it already is. With Superintendent Megan Degenfelder announcing her campaign for governor, a couple candidates are getting ready to square off for her spot. One is former senior policy advisor to Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon, Chad Auer. He left his job to dedicate himself full-time to campaigning for State Superintendent of Public Instruction. Chad joins us now.
Good morning.
In the Zoom room. Good morning, Chad. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Well, good morning. It's good to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. Bright and early. Who's tougher than us getting up early doing this?
Yes. Where are you at?
I am in Cheyenne today. I've been all over the state, and you have to excuse me a little bit. I think along the campaign trail, I picked up a cold here, but yeah, I live in Cheyenne. That's where I'm at this morning.
Nice. How is it down there? Because it's blowing and snowing and just completely awful up here in Sheridan.
Well, it's always blowing here, but we're getting a little bit of moisture, probably not as much as we need, but yeah, driving home yesterday from Casper back down to Cheyenne late last night, it was definitely blowing. I could see the weather moving in.
Yeah, it's not good. Well, let's get to know you a little bit, Chad. You're married, 3 grown kids. You came up here from Colorado. How long have we been in Cheyenne?
10 years, yeah. And you're right, married and 3 kids, going to be a grandfather this summer. Our first grandchild's on the way. Yeah, so we've been here for, like I said, 10 years and love it.
I don't know if you like to not stay in one place very long, or you have ADHD, or what's going on with your career, Chad. You've got multiple degrees.
Yeah, my resume is a little bit of a yard sale. I completely acknowledge that, but yeah, do you want to sort through it? Is that what you want to do?
Well, just touch on it a little bit, because it's everything.
Yeah, I've been blessed with a lot of different opportunities. I started out as a mediocre teacher, and I know some of my campaign folks get nervous and they don't like it when I say that, but it's the truth. It was the hardest job I ever had, Jeff, and but from there I was able to serve as a principal, as a district administrator. I did school improvement work, and then worked at the state level, and then went to law school. And I went to law school at age 48. And in fact, you might enjoy this, Jeff. I like telling this, is that one of my fellow students in law school, I actually was her elementary school principal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm pretty curious. And like you said, I have a very interesting, or maybe ADHD, ADD resume. But, over the course of time, I've been able to get a lot of experience. So, like after being a teacher and working in those various roles, I've also been in traditional public schools, inner city, suburban, rural, serving districts and communities on Native American reservation here in Wyoming, and as well as in Colorado. And also served as mayor, and most recently with Governor Gordon, I got to be a senior policy advisor there.
Yeah, because what was it when you're 48 and you're like, well, maybe it's time for law school?
Actually, I appreciate you asking that. So I was, my wife and I were having a conversation. I honestly was kind of feeling burned out with some of the turnaround work and some of the work I'd been doing in education, because education is sort of doesn't really know what to do with me, because I've been, like I said, in traditional public schools, but also have touched on and worked in charter schools and online and alternative schools. So anyway, I arrived at a point in life where I was feeling like I don't know, maybe I'm curious. So what's all the fuss about law school? And we were talking, and she said, well, you should apply. And I said, they're not going to let an old guy like me in. Plus, I'm a pretty middle of the bell curve guy. I don't think law school is where guys like me go. And anyways, but I was very excited and interested. And so I applied, and the University of Wyoming let me in. I don't know if it was a mistake or not, but I didn't tell them their error. And I just went and I did it, loved it. And so went to law school. A lot of people in education, I think at that point, in their careers, go get a doctor, like a PhD or a doctor of education. And I had, in addition to making a bet with my wife that I couldn't get in, that she obviously won, education has a lot of legal pieces to it. And while a PhD and a doctor in education is very important roles, or very important degrees, I thought a law degree would be an interesting mix to the resume there, because, like I said, and looking forward, education is it's a legal environment, always has been, but I think increasingly so, and also around policy. Education policy is a very important part of this, and having a law degree helps me navigate through those policy issues. So I don't know what you think about that. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is very crazy. I could not imagine going back to school at age 48, especially law school. But so what were we doing for Governor Gordon?
Yeah, I was a senior policy advisor, so I was able to focus on education policy, digital innovation. I was able to work with the Stable Token project, did regulatory reform, worked on some housing stuff, given my background in local government. Was able to have some discussions there and weigh in on some of those policy things. And then tribal relations, so working with our friends and neighbors in the Wind River Reservation, Eastern Shoshone and Northern Arapaho tribe, and those communities. So that's what I did. I got to work with like I said before, I'm a middle of the bell curve guy. I mean, the fact that I got to serve in a governor's administration and work alongside of some folks and work with the legislature as we're trying to navigate our way forward. It was a tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, and you go check out Chad's website, hourforwyoming.com. It's AUER for WYO.com to go and check out his website. But Chad's not messing around. You quit your job. I mean, this is your job now, Chad, is the campaign trail.
Brother, it is. It is full time. My wife and I made that decision that we're going to step away from a job that was a perfectly fine job and just roll up our sleeves and go all in on this. And I'm very fortunate. My wife and I are very fortunate to be in a position where we can do that. But yeah, I've been since last Tuesday when we made the announcement, been campaigning full time.
Wow. Yeah. So he like we said, this is it. This is he's living, breathing, bleeding this campaign until the end.
It's sort of like the metaphor or analogy that I'm thinking about is, a guy who's like a minor league baseball player and he's getting up there in age and he finally gets his moment to go up to the big leagues. Well, I've gotten my call, so I'm gonna swing for the fence on this, and we're all in.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, let's throw some questions at you here. Property tax cuts. How is that affected? What's your specific plan for balancing the loss of funds because of the state property taxes enacted by state legislators?
Yeah, no, I think this conversation about how we fund schools, it always has been hard. It always is hard, always will be hard. And that's okay. That process is difficult. How we fund it, what property or what revenue streams do we leverage, and then after we have those dollars, and as a state, how much money or how should we allocate those dollars for education? I mean, for me, the guiding principle here is that we should invest as much as we can afford in education. And I know that maybe sounds like a little bit of a dodge, but education is the best economic development plan we have. It is. It's our best way to invest in kids so that when they become citizens, that they're productive and employed and active participants in our American society and economy. So there's here in Wyoming we have a very interesting history, I would say, in that we as we wrestle through how to fund schools, which has predominantly been through commodity-based economy here, and we're very fortunate by that. But as we look to the future, we need to recognize that it's a difficult conversation. Number one, that no matter what number we land on any given moment in history and time, there's going to be people that say it was not enough, and there's going to be people that said it was too much. A few people might say we just hit it right on the money, but tomorrow we're going to continue to have that conversation because it's dynamic and it's going to move along. I guess one thing I would say, Jeff, there is that our history here is that we possibly overly involve the courts in that conversation. There's justifiable reasons. We have a constitutional responsibility to fund education. And when we don't do that, we meaning the legislature as well as, all of us, it's a responsibility that we all share. When we don't hit that mark, well, then it is appropriate for the courts to weigh in. But I think we've got work to be done on school funding. To your point, to your question, what are the appropriate revenue streams? And that's a very dynamic conversation. But in addition to that, what are the expenditures as well? What do we want to spend money on? What are we getting return on that investment? How do we know? This is educational leadership, and it's bare knuckles, it's sleeves rolled up, and I've been involved with those conversations at the state level, but also at the local level and school level over the years. And as we talked about before, with that yard sale of a resume that I have, but I'm confident Wyoming is blessed. We have a lot of opportunity here to have that conversation well, and to fund those schools. Like I said, to invest as much money as we can afford into our schools.
Well, you and your opponent, Tom Kelly, you both have an education background. How do we differentiate ourselves?
Well, first of all, I have great respect for Representative Kelly. I have enjoyed him as a legislator. I think he comes to issues with. He does his homework. He's a very smart guy. he doesn't follow anybody. And I mean that in a respectful way. He's an independent thinker. And I think that is exactly what Wyoming deserves. What differentiates us? I'm not entirely sure. I don't want to say what he has or doesn't have, but I can just tell you that, I feel like what's unique is that I do have experience K through 12, but also working with community colleges and higher ed here, particularly in Wyoming. I have experience as at the state level, and that's a unique experience or a background set of skills, being in leadership roles for a state education agency, particularly now when, as Washington, D.C. thinks about diminishing or even downsizing, completely eliminating the United States Department of Education. I think what differentiates me is that now more than ever, we need to make sure that our State Department of Education is positioned to absorb those responsibilities. Those responsibilities don't go away. They just shift to states, and we need to be in a position to do that. So I think my background in leading a state education agency is helpful there. I think some of the things that Representative Kelly and I have in common are, and again, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I think we both are interested in innovation in education, which, how do we thoughtfully think about the future, the rapidly developing technologies, and how do we thoughtfully leverage those for our public school system. That's one of the big challenges that lay ahead of us. For example, like artificial intelligence is going to help us individualize instruction for kids like we've never been able to do before. Rather than just repel these advancements and innovations, I believe that we need, and Wyoming is probably in the best position of any state in the union to thoughtfully think about those innovations and make them work for our kids and our schools. I think that's good.
Yeah. Chad Auer, go and check him out, AUER for WYO.com. He's going to be out on the campaign trail. Easter plans, we staying home, getting healthy this weekend?
I'm going to get healthy this weekend is exactly what I'm going to do. But, here's another thing, you can campaign from home. So, I might have to just get some cough drops and get on Zoom and get on the phone.
Yes, well, we'll get to feeling better.
I appreciate you.
And happy Easter, and thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Chad Auer. Go and check him out, hourforwyo.com. We'll be right back after this.
JB Hunt now has CDLA truck driving jobs in the Cheyenne area, and they're hiring Class A drivers for a local dedicated route. Drivers can make $78,000 a year and be home every night. Plus, medical benefits after 30 days on the job, also earning paid time off on your first day, and enjoy other perks like a company-matched 401k. As a company founded by a truck driver, JB Hunt is driven for you. So head to drivejbhunt.com to see the JB Hunt difference. That's drivejbhunt.com.
This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Hi. I'm your retirement fear, but don't be scared. You're still in pre-retirement.
Does that mean I have more time to plan?
Precisely. Here, this is pretirement.org.
Retirement savings options? Potential tax breaks.
Ooh.
This isn't scary. I'm doing it.
You got this.
Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan.
If you love them enough to drive an hour to cheer them on as they get beat 11-0 in the rain, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Throw that ball, Diane. Woo! You got this.
So as a technical sergeant, E6.
I served in Vietnam in 1969.
I am an U.S. Army veteran.
Have you ever helped a fellow veteran?
Of course.
Yes.
Try to always
be there for each other.
I do my best reaching out to my brothers and sisters in arms.
Have you ever asked for help yourself?
It's always tough, right? I can't say that I have. I mean,
If you don't have someone to kind of help you guide those thoughts, it can be really bad.
eventually, you just can't deal with it on your own. I guess it's a part of the military too, right? Service before self.
It was drilled in, service before self.
And you start to question, maybe people would be better off without me, When you realize that you're not alone, once you take that first step, there's so much support.
Welcome back, Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake right here on cowboystatedaily.com. Jeff filling in for Jake. Happy Good Friday. Friday, April 3rd. Man, 25 minutes past the hour. It is snowy and blowing, and I'm looking here. My wife texted me and said, I think Sheridan is on a 2-hour delay to the start of school today. I'm just looking here at the local. I guess I'm awake before the local media, as I don't see anything on their website, but my wife probably got an alert. There's no way she's awake right now. And she just texted me and said that she's in Bozeman with the kids this weekend, which I'm going to be heading that way. I don't know about today, but I can see the street out there, but it's covered in snow, but I can hardly look out my window because it's covered in snow. That's how the storm is right now. I woke up again at 4:40 this morning. I had to go to the bathroom because now my internal clock is so screwed up from doing the show this week that when I got up, I was like, please, Lord, just let me go back to sleep for 20 minutes. I laid back down and the wind was blowing so bad and it's so loud, I couldn't get back to sleep. And then, once I make any noise, here comes my St. Bernard. Chung, 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 chung. Hey, is it time to get up? No, it's not. And then here comes my cat. Hey, it's time to eat? No, it's not. Here goes my other cat. Hey, everybody else is awake. So yeah, I've been up since 4:40 again. Which, I get up at 5 or around there. Well, and also, I'm laying there, and I can hear my cat, hacking up a fur ball. I'm like, come on, guys, please. Just give me 20 minutes. That's all I'm asking. But, yeah. Wow. So, yes, I think Sheridan School District, at least the Sheridan schools, I don't know about Bighorn well, actually, they're off on Friday, so it doesn't matter. But I think Sheridan School District is on a 2-hour delay. And anybody out there that knows anything about any other schools, send me a text or give me a call, 307-620-8866. As we're waiting for our next guest, if you'd like to give me a call, 307-620-8866. Join the program. Give me a shout. What are your Easter plans? What do you got going on today for Good Friday? Are you working? How's the weather in your neck of the woods? Let's see here. Let's go to Wild Road and see what the map looks like here in the state of Wyoming. Because it might just be us again. Might just be here in northeastern Wyoming that we're the only ones getting hit. Oh, no, maybe. Oh, wow, it looks like the road is closed from Buffalo to Sheridan right now. Buffalo to Claremont is closed. Buffalo to Gillette looks like it's closed to high-profile vehicles because of extreme winds. Ouch, that's not good. Let's see, there's 3 exclamation marks. Stalled semi-truck. Stalled semi-truck. All lanes are blocked westbound between Buffalo and Sheridan at milepost 44. Be prepared to stop. Expect delays. Well, it looks like the road is closed. Between Sheridan and Ucross, the road is closed due to winter conditions. Estimating opening time is unknown. Sheridan North up to Ranchester. It just says wet, slick and spot, slush with snowfall. Dayton to the state line is about the same. Wet, slick and spots, slush with snowfall. Yeah, so if you are commuting this morning, you might want to give yourself a little bit of extra time. It is ugly out there. And maybe our guest who is coming on, I don't know where he's at. Where is he at? Near Yoder. Levi Kosmicki is coming on the show to talk about his side gig of some white gold, which is very interesting. He's a rancher who supplements his cow-calf operation of 300 and 350 mother cows near Yoder with a lucrative side gig. He works for ABS Global selling bull semen. This is interesting, but I don't know if Levi got caught up or what. We'll see if he joins us here. But yeah, I don't know how it's looking down in Yoder. If the weather's awful down there too. But yeah, the map, it says it's a little bit of, oh, no. Casper east to Douglas, or to Glenrock, or southeast to Douglas and Glenrock. It's closed to high-profile vehicles because of extreme wind risk. And then, oh boy, down on I-80 corridor. Yeah, I-80 is completely closed. Cheyenne's dry right now. But there's all kinds of exclamation marks. Extreme blowover risk. Closed to all high-profile vehicles under 60,000 gross vehicle weight due to gusting winds. Even north Laramie on 287 there, it's also closed to high-profile vehicles. Yeah, I-80 all the way from Green River to Cheyenne is closed to high-profile vehicles right now. So the winds are extreme in the state of Wyoming at this hour. Casper West, let's see, it looks like just dry with strong winds. And then south on 287 to Medicine Bow is dry. But then it's just, so it looks like they're not getting the snow. They're just getting the massive winds right now. They are awful. I don't know what. Let's see. Let's check the weather app here. See how bad they're blowing in Sheridan right now. It says Sheridan is 31 degrees, feels like 13. It's snowing. Snow forecasted for the next hour. It says it's supposed to snow all the way until on and off until about 2 or 3 o'clock this afternoon. And then be cloudy. We'll chat with Don Day coming up here about 7:20. See what Don has to say. Yeah, tomorrow, though, sunny and 52. So we just have to get through today. You might have to push back your Easter plans a little bit. Winds blowing at 19 miles an hour right now in Sheridan, gusts up to 34 miles an hour. Sunrise is at 6:44, coming up here in 11 minutes. 1 mile of visibility. Let's see, this winter storm warning. 3 to 8 inches of snow. Higher snowfall up to 12 inches possible in the higher elevations. Winds gusts as high as 45 miles an hour. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be making it to Bozeman today. I don't really feel like leaving at 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon either. Since my internal clock is set for 4:40 now, I can get up tomorrow morning and hit the road after it's been plowed. Chunk is sitting here in the window. What do you think, buddy? How's it looking out there? Yeah, but I can still see some of my street because that's the problem. Probably one spot, if you're standing in one corner of your yard, the snow's probably 2 inches. If you're standing where the wind is blowing, the snow's probably 12 inches. Because it's blowing so bad out there. Yeah, my tree's just shaking. Beautiful, beautiful Wyoming spring day. Welcome to April. We need the moisture. We'll take anything right now. I don't care what it is. We need it. But yeah, if you're commuting this morning, definitely take some time. South of Jackson. Oh, it says watch for falling rock. Slick with snowfall over by Big Piney and Pinedale. Looks like they're getting some action this morning. Buffalo over the mountain. It's snowing, slick with snowfall. Let's see, black ice between Canyon Creek and Sheep Mountain up on U.S. Highway 16 above Buffalo. So, yeah. Looks like we're sticking at home for a little while. And if you're just joining us, like I said, 2-hour start delay to Sheridan schools this morning. It's not on anywhere, but my wife, who works for a school here, texted me but right before the show. So she must have got a notification this morning. Huh. I just got off the phone with the president. Did you watch some of the Tiger Woods videos yesterday? Unreal. Go watch those. Tell me what you think. He's hiccuping all the time. It's crazy. Let me refresh my YouTube here. I don't see the chat room. Why can't I see him in the chat room here? Oh, there we go. Okay. Happy Holy Week, everyone. Happy Friday to everyone at Cowboy State Daily. Happy weekend. They have school in Sheridan. That's odd. Why wouldn't we have school in Sheridan? They are out of school for Bighorn School District 1 and 2 in Lovell and Cowley. Oh, yeah, we had a lot of schools are on spring break right now. We are not. We had spring break like 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, that's why. Because somebody else, I called over to Cody yesterday, and they're in spring break. I tried to call Jen Talich yesterday, Cody State Farm agent, and she was out of the office for spring break. I wanted to talk to her about something and also tell her that her husband came up on the show a couple days ago. Like she cares, but she'll say, he gets mentioned enough. Come on. Talk about Luke or somebody else. But yeah, Jim Talich. Wyoming Cowboy football player back when I was in school. Which that's another funny story because I went to high school with Jen and then met Jim in college, and now they're married. Funny how the world works sometimes. But, yeah. Jam-packed show today. That's for sure. We had a guest every segment, but I don't know what happened with Levi. He must have got caught up this morning. But I think it's Pete Sepp is the president of the National Taxpayers Union. He's going to be coming up next. And then Kevin Christensen, he is running for U.S. House of Representatives seat. Dr. Michael Bailey, this guy's a board-certified veterinarian radiologist and the current president of the American Veterinary Medical Association. He's coming up a little bit later on. Tate Schrock and Carson Black, they're with the Cheyenne Children's Museum. Tate is with Edge Flight. That's interesting. We'll chat with him. And then Carson is with the Cheyenne Children's Museum. They've got an event coming up April 25th. Aaron Brown with the Wyoming Highway Patrol. He's coming on the show. Cameron Wright. He's the former dean that clashed with the UW president. He is now running for legislature in Laramie. And then Lonnie Freericks, who we had the story on the website earlier this week about him and his tiny runt goat Tenacity. He lives over in Buffalo. So we'll chat with Lonnie coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. What's on your mind? Give me a call, 307-620-8866, or send me a text message. You can also chat with us in the YouTube or on the YouTube channel. He says, I agree, definitely agree. Wyoming sure can take all the moisture, rain, snow, ice, sleet, anything. Yes, we will take anything right now. We are desperate for any kind of moisture here in Wyoming. Yeah, we're getting some right now. But yeah, as the sun slowly trying to rise here, we'll see if it can peek its head out with the clouds. But yeah, wind, snow, awfulness here in Sheridan, Wyoming. We'll catch up with Don Day coming up around 7:20 this morning. And let's take a quick break. And we'll see if we can chat with Pete coming up next. He is the president of the National Taxpayers Union. That is next right here on the Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. Jeff filling in for him. Thanks for listening right here on CowboyStateDaily.com.
Welcome to The Jake Show on Cowboy State Daily, Wyoming's daily dose of raw, unfiltered, and occasionally uncomfortable truth.
I don't do talking points. I do reality.
No spin, no fluff, just Jake. Local issues, national nonsense, and zero BS. It's truth, sarcasm, and grit, shaken, not stirred.
I just call it like I see it, and I see a lot of Let's just say I see a lot.
From the capital to the county fair, if it matters to Wyoming, Jake's got something to say, and he's not asking permission.
The West was built by people who weren't afraid to speak up. I'm just keeping the tradition alive.
The Jake Show, weekdays on CowboyStateDaily.com and wherever you get your dose of reality.
Not for the easily rattled, perfect for everyone else.
You're listening to the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Hi. I'm your retirement fear. But don't be scared. You're still in pre-retirement.
Does that mean I have more time to plan?
Precisely. Here, this is pretirement.org.
Retirement savings options? Potential tax breaks?
Ooh.
This isn't scary. I'm doing it.
You got this.
Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan.
If you love them enough to drive an hour to cheer them on as they get beat 11-0 in the rain, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Throw that ball, Diane. Woo! You got this.
So as a technical sergeant, E6.
I served in Vietnam in 1969.
I am a U.S. Army veteran.
Have you ever helped a fellow veteran?
Of course.
Yes.
Try to always be there for each other.
I do my best reaching out to my brothers and sisters in arms.
Have you ever asked for help yourself?
It's always tough, right?
I can't say that I have. I mean,
If you don't have someone to kind of help you guide those thoughts, it can be really bad.
Eventually, you just can't deal with it on your own.
I guess it's a part of the military too, right? Service before self.
It was drilled in, service before self.
And you start to question, maybe people would be better off without me, When you realize that you're not alone, once you take that first step, there's so much support.
Welcome back. Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. Right here on cowboystatedaily.com. You can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, X, or right there on cowboystatedaily.com. 16 minutes till the top of the hour. It's blowing, snowing, and nasty here in Sheridan, Wyoming right now. Currently 31, 29 in Buffalo, 30 in Gillette, 20 in Laramie, 31 in Casper, 26 in Cheyenne. Highs in the mid-40s today, upper 30s. High of only 37 in Sheridan, 35 in Buffalo, 37 in Gillette, 44 in Cheyenne. So it might warm up a little bit more in Cheyenne. But yeah, high winds all over the state. I-80 down south closed to high-profile vehicles all the way from Cheyenne to Green River this morning. I think the road from Buffalo to Sheridan is closed right now. Well, our next guest has testified before Congress on everything from IRS reform to the national debt crisis. As president of the National Taxpayers Union, he's at the front lines of the battle against wasteful spending and tax hikes. Here to break down how the latest Wyoming legislative session bills will affect your wallet, it's Pete Sepp. He's in the Zoom room. Thanks, Pete, so much for coming on.
Hey, great to be here.
Man, well, Secretary of State Chuck Gray certified a citizen-led initiative for the November 2026 ballot that would exempt 50% of a primary residence assessed value from taxation. How do you guys view the risk of a fiscal cliff giving the estimated $143 million annual revenue hit to the state?
Yeah, it's an important consideration, but I can tell you property taxes are once again a big concern across the country. Most of the tax limitation ballot measures we saw back in the 1970s, California, Massachusetts, Michigan, Missouri, they all focused on property taxes. Then a lot of these activists who were qualifying these measures moved on, and we focused on other things, but property taxes are back. In Florida, there's a movement to actually repeal the property tax entirely. I don't think they're going to be able to pull that off. I think in Wyoming, you got to be careful too. Exempting 50% of the value from taxation is an approach I've seen in a few other states, but mainly they take the approach of saying, okay, we're going to limit the growth rate of assessments every year to something like inflation and population. And then if a government wants to go further than that, they've got to ask the jurisdiction's voters for approval. That's probably a sustainable approach over the long run.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the good thing here in Wyoming is we're growing. I mean, here in Sheridan, I mean, there's been, I don't know how many new houses in the last couple of years. So, I mean, that's good for property taxes. But, yeah, some of the states that aren't growing, watch out.
Yeah, that's right. And I would make a plug, too, for truth in taxation laws. What those do is require advance notice, public hearings, and public comment before property taxes actually go up, either the rate or the assessment method. Utah does that, Nebraska does that, Kansas does that. They've had pretty good experience with it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Governor Mark Gordon recently signed HB 45, which prohibits homeowners from double dipping by claiming both the long-term senior exemption and the new ballot initiative exemption if it passes. Do you see this as a prudent safeguard or an attempt to undermine voter-led relief?
Yeah. Whenever government itself proposes these kinds of things, you have to be careful as a voter because you realize governments generally aren't in this thing to lose money.
No.
They're in it to raise money. Now, is it fair or is it double dipping to claim two exemptions at once? Some people might say so, but I would say vote carefully because if government gets its hands on more tax dollars, you need to have a safeguard on the other side that keeps them from just spending it on whatever they want. The best thing you can do there, if government's going to get a revenue windfall, have a spending limit in place too, so that they have this money for a rainy day, and there will be one. property values will eventually start to slow or decrease in some of Wyoming's cities and towns, and so will the property tax revenue. You'll want to have a cushion when that happens.
Yeah, you can go check out Pete's website, ntu.org. Following the 2024 Amendment A, the legislator created a separate property class for owner-occupied homes. Proposed bills like SF 110 aim to drop the assessment rate from 9.5% to 8.3%. Is this carve-out approach a sustainable model for other states, or does it unfairly shift the burden to industrial and mining sectors?
Yeah, we have to be very careful about that. It's very easy to say, go tax that other fellow behind the tree. They've got money, and everything will be fine. Well, no, because once you hit the fellow behind the tree, he looks for another tree, sometimes in another state. And we don't want to chase businesses out of Wyoming, which has, Wyoming has tremendous tax advantages. No personal income tax, no corporate tax. One of the lower sales taxes, sixth lowest in the country, actually.
Oh, wow.
That's why, for example, the governor's recent meeting with executives regarding data centers, it's a natural sell to come to Wyoming for anyone wanting to build data centers. There are access to water and electricity issues, of course, but that's anywhere. Factor those out, and you're left with things like taxes and regulations, and Wyoming is way ahead of many other states with good policy there.
Yeah, that's, it's good. Yeah, we won't go into that, I guess, right now, Pete. But one radical proposal in SF 110 involves zeroing out the 25 school mills collected from homeowners, shifting the education funding burden entirely to the state's general fund. From a taxpayer perspective, what are the long-term risks of disconnecting local school funding from local property wealth?
Yeah, when you do that, of course, you're aiming for a couple of things: to have more equitable funding distribution, that's why the state handles it instead of each locality, and to have a little more uniformity in tax rates across the localities. It has not always worked out that way. In fact, it has not often worked out that way in other states. The further up you push education funding and education responsibility, the more money gets spent on schools in total with less accountability. Where I live, right outside of Washington, D.C., in the state of Maryland, that is exactly what's happened here. The counties keep pushing money up and up and up to Annapolis, our capital, and then they just distribute the money all over the state. Nobody knows where it's going or who it's going to. So I would be very careful with removing some of the local control over property tax. At the same time, the localities have to be held accountable. And again, things like truth in taxation laws, spending lids, voter approval requirements for growth and property tax assessments, I would put those in place for localities rather than shift the funding up to the state.
Yeah. We're chatting with the president of the National Taxpayers Union. HB 45 expanded the 50% exemption for seniors, 65 and over, who have paid Wyoming taxes for 25 years, capping it at the first $3 million for fair market value. Does the National Taxpayers Union support long-term residency as a valid criterion for tax relief, or should relief be strictly based on income?
Well, long-term residency is something I guess public policymakers want to aim for. They don't want a lot of migration in and out of the state. They want a stable tax base. That's understandable, sure. I don't know whether 25 years or 10 years or 15 years is the right residency number. That's kind of hard to figure out. I'd also be careful, too, about carving out so many exemptions that it becomes very difficult for the average taxpayer to understand what they qualify for. You look at a place like Georgia or Alabama, for example, it is very difficult to actually claim a lot of these exemptions. They are not automatically taken off your property tax bill. Sometimes you got to apply for them. Sometimes you have to claim them on your income tax returns. I mean, that's not a factor in Wyoming, but avoid complication is a lesson that I've learned. Otherwise, really, nobody takes advantage of these exemptions and deductions, and so you just have a complicated tax code as a result.
Yeah. Well, here's another one. HB 183 proposed extending property tax refunds to renters, recognizing that they pay property taxes indirectly through rent. Well, how does this align with the National Taxpayers Union goal of ensuring all taxpayers benefit from state surpluses?
Yeah, I think that is a fairness question, and it really should be taken into account. Renters do pay property tax, even if it doesn't show up in their monthly bill, and they do deserve to take some kind of participation or credit whenever there are surpluses. So that's a good deal.
Yeah, you mentioned eliminating property taxes entirely. You think we could pull it off in Wyoming?
Count me as skeptical. It is important to limit property taxes. It's important to make sure they are transparent. It is important to make sure that they don't rise faster than the people's ability to afford them. Getting rid of them ends up with the inevitable question of what replaces them. And if the swap in Wyoming would be, hey, let's have an income tax, no way. No way. That does not work well in other states. If it's higher sales tax, well, maybe, but the sales tax would have to be way higher. Just looking at Wyoming's revenue structure, you'd be looking at a sales tax well north of 10% on everything.
Yeah, no, I not a good idea, especially without a state tax. I don't think so. Let's hit you with one national question before we let you go here. The White House recently discussed creating an IRS CEO position. How do you see this role interacting with the commissioner to improve accountability?
Yeah, he's already in it. A fellow named Frank Bisignano, who is also wearing a hat as Social Security Administrator. I think it's a fine idea. What they need, though, really is a private sector oversight board. We lobbied for that, had it created in 1998, but neither Congress nor the White House wants to send nominees for that oversight board. We need it because that would allow private sector expertise to be brought to bear on some of the IRS's craziest problems, like computer systems that are older than me, and I'm 62 years old.
Well, you look great, Pete.
Yeah, only on the outside.
Plans for the weekend? What are we doing for Easter?
Well, certainly we're going to try and enjoy some weather if it gets above 50 degrees here. And I'm going to be looking at some new policy papers we're about to release on data center and taxpayers policies. So those are going to be very important coming up.
What do you think about all these data centers coming to Wyoming?
I think that Wyoming should take advantage of it to the fullest. Make sure that you exploit the natural advantages of your tax system. You'll reap a lot of revenues from data centers that locate there. But again, make sure that those revenues are banked for the future rather than squandered in the present.
Yeah, that's for sure. He's the president of the National Taxpayers Union, Pete Seep. Thanks so much, Pete, for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Take care.
Yeah, you too. You can go check out their website, ntu.org. Great information there from Pete. We're about to the top of the hour here on Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. 1 hour down. Next hour, we got Kevin Christensen coming on. He's running for U.S. House of Representatives seat. We'll check in with Don Day, see what's happening around the state besides high winds. Dr. Michael Bailey's coming on. He's with the American Veterinary Medical Association, and reporter Andrew Rossi, all coming on in the next hour. So, yes, we've got a jam-packed show. We've got a guest every segment this morning. Also, send me a text. Join the program. 307-620-8866. Nothing yet in the text bank. So, yes, send me a text message this morning. If you're watching on YouTube, go in the chat room there. Oh, my gosh. There's all kinds of messages now. No wind in Lovell. Mostly cloudy. 33 degrees outside. Well, that's not bad. Thanks. Checking who thinks Cowboy State go WY. Well, there we go. Let's head to the news.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming. From the Cowboy State Daily News Center, I'm Mac Watson. Tensions between Governor Mark Gordon and Secretary of State Chuck Gray erupted again Thursday during a meeting of the Wyoming Board of Land Commissioners concerning attainable housing. Cowboy State Daily's David Madison reports Gordon told Gray to, quote, shut up during a debate and invited him to step out of the room.
Secretary Gray introduced an amendment. As the debate continued, there was a little bit of crosstalk where Superintendent of Public Instruction Megan Degenfelder was speaking and Chuck Gray was speaking at about the same time. And it's the chair's job, Governor Mark Gordon, to keep order. And he apparently had enough because he raised his voice. He told Chuck Gray to shut up and to stop. And then he stood up and kind of pointed as though, would you like to step outside? I did not hear him say it this time, but the body language was pretty clear. In response, Chuck Gray said the governor was violating his own rules of decorum, and then the meeting took a pause. When they came back, they continued to debate the amendment and ultimately tabled it.
In a statement to Cowboy State Daily after the tense exchange, Gray said his amendment would ensure that state projects, quote, mirror what President Trump has done at the federal level, unquote. Gray also accused Gordon of being a, quote, liberal, unquote. Superintendent of Public Instruction Megan Degenfelder has apologized for her department's release of unredacted student information in a public records request. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that Degenfelder says the release was the result of human error and those involved have been reprimanded.
It was a public apology because her office released unredacted student information pursuant to a public records request that the Sweetwater County School District Superintendent had filed. A parent filed for the same batch of records, and according to the leader of that parent group, also received a file dump of unredacted information. Degenfelder said that the people involved in this disclosure were reprimanded and aren't handling public records anymore.
The error came to light after a member of a group of parents in Sweetwater County School District Number 1 announced publicly that the district had asked the department in a public records request for a substantial amount of parent complaints. I'll be back with more news from the Cowboy State Daily News Center right after this. Here's another driving safety tip from WYDOT. Download the Wyoming 511 app for hands-free information on your mobile device. This has been another safety tip from the Wyoming Department of Transportation.
My name is Joanne, and I'm a mom of 6 here in Casper, Wyoming. When you raise a family here, you don't just think about today. You think about the future, where your kids will build their lives and where your grandkids might grow up. What worries me is that my kids will have to leave Wyoming to find good, high-paying jobs. That's why Build Wyoming matters to me. Data center jobs are high-quality, high-paying jobs, the kind that give families a real reason to stay and build a future here. Give our kids and grandkids a reason to stay, and they will.
Build Wyoming with Prometheus Hyperscale. Go to buildwyoming.com.
Cowboy State Daily News continues now. Gillette-based L&H Industrial built some of the massive hardware that helped the Artemis II rocket blast off on Wednesday, taking astronauts to the moon for the first time in 50 years. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that this isn't the first time the company has built components for NASA.
So that was L&H's first job for NASA, was redesigning these crawlers to carry that much weight. But it's also got to make sure that it's shunting all that force away from the rocket, because you can't have that bouncing back up and hitting the rocket. All that heat, all that force, it's going to destroy the rocket before it ever takes off.
L&H spokeswoman Brittany Thomas tells Cowboy State Daily that the deflector plates were actually the second project L&H handled for Artemis II. Now that the new almost 1,300-foot-long, 180-foot-tall Yellowstone Bridge is finished, demolition crews are dismantling the 65-year-old bridge that stood in its place. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports that the teardown is expected by the end of the year, and the new bridge should last almost 100 years.
The concrete deck of the old bridge is being slowly dismantled, starting at one end and going across. And as the spring and summer progress, they're going to take down the steel supporting beams and then the piers that have been keeping this bridge up for the last 60 years. And the new bridge, which cost over $118 million and is over 1,000 feet long, not only is a much bigger project, it actually has less of an impact on the landscape.
The Yellowstone River Bridge project began in 2023 and officially opened in 2025. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting that daily newsletter button at cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Mac Watson for Cowboy State Daily.
When she was 19 weeks pregnant with Finn, Kelly went in for a routine ultrasound.
The doctor knew that something was wrong when he looked at his heart and saw that there weren't any chambers and there were abnormal connections.
After Finn was born, he needed multiple surgeries and procedures just so he could survive.
He has had 17 procedures, including 2 open heart surgeries. To be perfectly honest, I can't see Finn even getting past birth without the American Heart Association.
Finn's entire family is grateful to the American Heart Association. Their support of life-saving research and medical breakthroughs gave Finn a second chance at life.
I love to go on bike rides with my daddy. Thank you for helping kids like me.
Learn how you can join us in the fight to help prevent death from heart disease and stroke at helpheart.org today.
Six minutes past the 7 o'clock hour. Good morning. Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. Jeff filling in for Jake this week and next week, as Jake is on a much-needed vacation. He's having sun and fun. I am having snow and wind here in Sheridan, Wyoming. I can't even look out my window. The sun is out, but my window is covered in snow. I have DirecTV. It's not coming through because my dish is covered in snow. Everything's covered in snow right now. And it's still snowing out here in Sheridan, Wyoming. You can join the program, 307-620-8866. Well, joining us today is a man who spent nearly 3 decades in service to our country, a Casper native, Kelly Walsh graduate. He rose through the ranks of the U.S. Army, earning 2 Bronze Stars and the Legion of Merit for his leadership in combat. After a career at the highest level of national defense and serving as a leader for the BLM right here in Wyoming, he's now seeking a new mission in Washington. Let's welcome candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Mr. Kevin Christensen. Kevin, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Morning, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Well, wow, you grew up in Casper, had an amazing military career. Was it always the plan to come back to Casper?
You know, one of the things when you're growing up is you've got that young person urge to want to get out and see the world. And I did. I've been all over the world. I've been in great places. I've been in places where they were trying to kill me. But I got to say that, you know, you don't have to be outside of Wyoming very long before you miss it, and you just want to come back. So when my service was over in the military, I was dying to get back to the great things we have here in Wyoming.
Well, that might have been because how long were you in D.C.?
I had about 6 years in Washington, D.C. Traffic is one of those things that, you know, we don't really know what that means in Wyoming. I'll tell you what, D.C.'s got traffic, and that was a powerful reason to want to leave. And now here I am wanting to try to go back.
Yeah, exactly. That's a head scratcher. But your Bronze Stars, tell us about this, Kevin.
Yeah, well, I was part of the initial invasion force in Iraq. And 2003, I earned a Bronze Star for leading a task force into Iraq. And we had quite a few combat missions. There's a documentary that recounts one of those. It's called the Apache Warrior Film. You can watch it on Netflix and on Amazon Prime, and it'll give a sense of some of what my unit faced in the early days of combat in Iraq.
Wow.
And My second Bronze Star came from being a battalion task force commander during the surge operations in Iraq in 2007, 2008. I had the largest aviation battalion task force doing a lot of special operations missions all across Iraq. And really, truly great men and women that I served with. My unit earned the Valorous Unit Citation for our actions in combat. And we helped crush Al-Qaeda in Iraq. You don't hear about Al-Qaeda much anymore. And, I was proud that my unit had a big role to play in doing that.
Unreal. So, I mean, this is nothing. These elections these races are nothing for you, Kevin. I mean, how many times we feared for our life?
Well, a number of times, and, elections are going to get nasty, but I'm okay with that. I'm pretty sure that even Chuck Gray won't take a shot at me. And so I'm willing to take the heat and look forward to the opportunity of representing the people of Wyoming.
Yeah, you can go check out his website, Christensen2026.org. Well, you've described your leadership as strengthened by combat. How will your specific experiences in the military translate to legislative gridlock often found in the U.S. House?
Well, what I learned is you have to be influential. The key to getting things done is to be the type of person that works with people who don't think like you. People who are different from you. You can't always surround yourself by people who think and look and act just like you, because then you start to think that the entire world or the state of Wyoming is just like you. And so I learned in the military, to get things done, you build trust relationships with people. You work hard to value those relationships. When things get tough, people who trust each other get work done. I don't want to be the kind that, rides on rhetoric and goes, sits in the corner and pouts when you don't get your way. You reach across the aisle, you're pragmatic, and you get work done.
Yeah, because not much work is getting done, it seems like, in D.C.
No. Well, Congress has not passed a budget on time since 1997. So who gets, to keep their job when you haven't done your job right since 1997?
Yeah. And the shutdowns and everything, but hey, they still keep getting paid.
Well, here's the thing, I support congressional reform. One of the things I feel is really important with congressional reform is that if you've got a shutdown that's like we have a partial DHS shutdown, you don't go on recess, you don't continue to take your pay, you don't vote yourself pay raises and take special perks on healthcare and other types of things. You focus on getting those people back to work and getting paid. And one way to show that it's about selfless service and not about accumulating wealth is that you agree that you're not going to take pay until the federal government is properly funded. And there needs to be a budget on the president's desk before the 1st of October. That's the rules. That's the law. You get the work done.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as a candidate for Wyoming's only House seat, how do you plan to ensure the state-specific needs aren't overshadowed by national party agendas?
Well, national party agendas are important, but, I'm going to be representing the state of Wyoming. I'm not taking my orders from people in Washington, D.C. and career politicians. I'm going to take my orders from the people of Wyoming.
Yeah.
And that means doing the wrong, if you have to do the right thing when it's not popular to do it, you do the right thing. That's the Cowboy Code.
Yeah. What's good for the people. They put you in there. That's
That's right. And you have to be responsive to the needs of the people of Wyoming. Now, if all you do is that you're like an AI bot that's going to go to DC and do whatever they tell you to do, then, why send somebody like that there? Send people who know Wyoming issues and grew up in Wyoming and will go there and fight for what's good for Wyoming and not just do what everybody else tells you to do.
Kevin Christensen, he's running for U.S. House of Representatives in 2026. You can check out his website, Christensen2026.org. We're chatting with him right now on Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. I've seen it a couple times, Kevin, researching you. People are like, well, he doesn't mention President Trump at all on his website. Does he have to? What do you think about this?
It's clear to me that it's a crowded field, and I'm seeing that all the other candidates are all kind of rushing to see who's the most ultra-conservative. Pick me, pick me, pick me. I want to take my endorsement from the people of Wyoming. And that's where I'm seeking to get that endorsement from.
Yeah, because you're still a Republican. How do you explain your Republicanism to people?
Well, I tell people I'm a pragmatic Republican, a traditional Republican. I grew up, my first election was Ronald Reagan. I grew up admiring people like Alan Simpson. If Alan Simpson was here today and he was running for the vacant Senate slot, they'd call him a rhino. I'm the kind of Republican that's more on the traditional. I'm interested in talking about issues over ideology. Ideology doesn't get work done. It provokes emotional responses in people. It gets people fired up. Let's talk about what the issues are that affect Wyoming. So I'm a traditional Republican. And again, I feel like my motto is I'm a Republican for all Wyoming, not just the people who think or look like me.
Yeah. You led the High Plains District of the BLM, Wyoming, for 6 years. What's your stance on the current balance between federal control and state autonomy over Wyoming's public lands?
Well, here's what I would do in office. The current process in the NEPA law is that the federal government, when it wants to do a major project in Wyoming, the governor gets an opportunity to provide a consistency review. And I believe that has to be changed. It has to be a concurrence review. The governor needs to concur with Wyoming actions. Wyoming decisions need to remain in Wyoming. When you're a state that has almost half of your land and 65% of your minerals controlled by the federal government, you can't have a situation where the federal government can steamroll over the top of the state of Wyoming. We have a vested interest in our public lands. I'm a strong public lands advocate, and I was proud to be the steward of the lands that I had in Wyoming. And I feel that has to change. The Biden administration, steamrolled over the top of Governor Gordon over closing access to Powder River Basin coal. It was awful. I refuse to sign off on that. You'll find that action that in the Biden administration does not have my signature on it because I thought it was fundamentally wrong. Governor Gordon strongly objected to it. It's so important. It was important for other states. Other states objected to it too. They need Wyoming coal. They're dependent on it. And the idea that we would just arbitrarily cut it off was just egregious politics. So I feel like that's an example where that's a law that needs to get changed.
Yeah, speaking of energy development, one of your pillars is responsible energy development. How would you prioritize traditional fossil fuels alongside the growing interest in renewable energy or nuclear projects here in Wyoming?
Well, I'm a strong believer that our Wyoming energy industry needs to have both. I'm the only candidate that's actually worked in the energy industry in Wyoming. I've permitted over 5,000 new wells that are pumping oil right now. We mined 1.7 billion tons of Wyoming coal. That's an important part, and we need to continue to grow and develop that. Renewable energy has a place in Wyoming. I am not an advocate for large-scale wind and solar projects that take up public lands. When you put a large-scale wind and solar project on public lands, it's no longer really available for the multiple use. You're not going to develop minerals on it. You're not going to have access with wildlife. We had a case where the solar project that's out by Rock Springs slaughtered an entire herd of pronghorn antelope for being built right on top of a migration corridor. So I believe in solar and wind on private land. Private landowner rights are important. If they can get a permit and they want to do it on private land, I'd rather see solar sitting on top of commercial buildings, private land, absolutely not on public lands. And nuclear is clean energy. When I was stationed overseas in Germany, there were nuclear power plants all over the place. That's how they made their electricity. Wyoming uranium is available. We need to stop buying it from Russia, develop it here in Wyoming, and let's get some nuclear power plants. People are afraid of, the 3 Mile Island type of situation. The technology is so much more advanced than what it was back in the day. It's clean, it's efficient, and we can make a lot of energy. We're going to have all these data centers providing jobs. We're going to need the power that it takes to power those facilities.
Yeah, well, speaking of jobs, how do we support growth of new jobs and services? How do we keep the young kids here in the state of Wyoming?
Well, it's a big challenge, right? Because we're losing 60% of our Wyoming-born kids at 20 years old. It's 70% by the time they're 30 years old. We can't have growth in Wyoming while still losing all of our Wyoming-born people. And we got to create opportunities for them to be here and stay here in the great state of Wyoming. I like the idea that, the data centers, I've heard the previous spot, build Wyoming and, the work of the Wyoming Business Council. Those are important actions that we need to be able to help find opportunities for Wyoming people to stay in Wyoming, build their homes and families, and enjoy the great state of Wyoming like I have.
What have you been doing? What are these meet and greets? What's going on at your meet and greets, Kevin?
Well, what I've been doing is focusing right now on hearing, rather than going out and telling people, this is what I believe and this is how you should think. I'm going around and doing meet and greets, and I'm asking people to come in and tell me what's on your mind. What are the issues? What do you want me to be aware of? And how do you want me to represent you? I think we learn a lot more by listening than we do by talking. And so these have been listening sessions and opportunities. And I got to tell you, the people that have come out have really engaged me with some great questions. I've really benefited from that. I've got one coming up this Saturday at the hangar in Bar None at 6 p.m. And I'm just encouraging people who want to know more about me, but want to come and tell me what's on the mind of the people who live in Wyoming. And I want to hear from everybody, not just everybody who thinks and looks like me. I want to hear from everybody.
Yeah, Kevin Christensen running for U.S. House of Representatives. Go and check him out, Christensen2026.org. Easter plans? What are we doing besides that this weekend?
Well, it's going to be a busy weekend on Saturday for campaigning, but Sunday will be about celebrating the risen Christ.
Yes. Kevin Christensen, good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on the show. Don Day's coming up next.
JB Hunt now has CDLA truck driving jobs in the Cheyenne area, and they're hiring Class A drivers for a local dedicated route. Drivers can make $78,000 a year and be home every night. Plus, medical benefits after 30 days on the job, also earning paid time off on your first day, and enjoy other perks like a company-matched 401k. As a company founded by a truck driver, JB Hunt is driven for you. So head to drivejbhunt.com to see the JB Hunt difference. That's drivejbhunt.com. Seroptimist of Cody presents Uncorked and Untapped, the brand new tasting experience. Saturday, April 11th at the Cody Auditorium in Cody. Sample Wyoming crafted wine, bourbon, whiskey, and beer, plus incredible bites from local restaurants and food trucks. There'll be live games, a silent auction from 7 to 10 p.m. Get your tickets now at Legends Bookstore or online at codyseroptimist.org. Tickets are $50 now, $60 at the door. Must be 21 to attend. Uncorked and Untapped, where Wyoming comes to celebrate.
This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Dad! Okay, here we go, throw it! Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
Nice.
Jason, let's go see your room.
What do you think? We kept it a little spare, so you can decorate it how you like.
Dinner! Go?
Excellent. Soccer is fun. Yeah, I saw you guys out there.
"24 minutes past the 7 o'clock hour. Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. Jeff filling in for Jake this morning. It's Friday. It's Good Friday. It's nasty outside. Let's check in with Don Day to see how the rest of the state's looking. Don, it's windy everywhere.
Well, yeah, that goes without saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the northern part of the state is full-fledged winter storm right now. I was just looking at current conditions in Sheridan and Buffalo. Heavy snow, winds gusting past 50 miles an hour. Visibilities are less than a half mile. That is darn close to being what we would call blizzard status.
Yes.
So it's getting at it in the north central part of the state for sure.
Yes, and then down south along I-80, it's like closed to high-profile vehicles from Cheyenne to Green River.
Yeah, when you get a storm like this, the way it's tracking across northern Wyoming, you get a pattern where the northern half gets the snow, the southern half gets the wind. And that's how it's going to go through all of the day today. This is just a good day to stay put. If you're not getting snow, you're getting wind, and in some areas you're getting the snow and the wind.
Yeah. Well, it says now that it's lasting till like mid-afternoon. How long are we expecting this?
Well, it depends on where you are, okay? So we are going to see the storm move west to east. It'll be into western South Dakota here by around the noon hour. But the wraparound, the counterclockwise rotation, is going to keep the wintry weather in place really all day. The snow, the heavier snow, will be this morning. We'll see the snow taper off later this afternoon, but even into the evening and nighttime hours, snow showers are going to be possible. So the worst of the snow is now, but this storm is going to impact us through the night.
That's not what I wanted to hear, Don. I'm trying to get to Bozeman sometime.
Oh, that's right. We're supposed to make the weather suit everybody's needs. I forget that all the time. Sorry, silly me.
You're supposed to have a switch on this stuff, Don. But I mean, the good news is it's like tomorrow it's going to get nice.
Well, the good news is this: it's water.
Yes, that's true.
It's good news. It's precipitate. I mean, really, we should be jumping up and down for joy.
Yeah.
If you take a look at the latest drought monitor, it's just awful. So this is causing inconvenience. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's great. Jacksonville ski area, I just saw their ski report, 16 inches of snow atop of Jackson Hole ski area. And I've seen we're getting close to an inch of water equivalent out of this snow in some parts of northern Wyoming. So, yes, an inconvenience, but good news. And, boy, I tell you, the weekend weather does get better. Tomorrow is going to be a little chilly, but Sunday looks great. And in areas that are getting the snow, it'll be gone and it'll be greening up.
Yeah. Yeah, even yesterday, though, my yard, I was like, man, I'm going to have to mow my yard next weekend.
Well, after this snow,
yeah,
you're definitely mowing next week.
Yeah, I was like, this is way too early to be breaking out the lawnmower, but we'll see what happens. And I think more moisture is coming next week, hopefully.
Yeah, we don't see a big storm next week, but we do see April showers, especially starting around Wednesday and continuing into the next weekend. So there will be about a 3-day break, Sunday through Tuesday. Not much going on, but Wednesday through next weekend, we're going to have some showers, maybe some thunderstorms.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, thanks, Don. Happy Easter. Have a great weekend.
You too. Enjoy the snow.
Yes, I will. Or maybe not. Like Don says, stay put. Might be the best thing to do today because it is nasty out there. It's so nasty that my window is just covered in the snow. I can kind of see the road, a little bit of black coming up through the snow just because the wind's blowing so bad that it's blowing the snow every other direction. But yeah. And the wind's down southern Wyoming. I-80 is pretty much closed to all high-profile vehicles from Cheyenne to Green River this morning. Well, joining us now is a true trailblazer in the world of animal health. He's a board-certified veterinary radiologist, a former congressional fellow, and a man currently leading the charge for over 105,000 veterinarians across the country. Let's welcome the president of the American Veterinary Medical Association, Dr. Michael Bailey. He's in the Zoom room. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. Hey, great seeing you.
Yes, thanks so much for coming on. I mean, I hate this that it's 2026, but we gotta mention it because you, which is crazy, the first black president in the history. I mean, how long is the American Veterinary Association been going on?
Oh, only 163 years. Just a few years in through there.
Just a little while. So it's about damn time, Michael. That's all I can say.
Well, I just want to be sure I'm not the last.
Yeah, well, that's true, too. I mean, as the first black president, I mean, how do we hope that you're not the last?
Just by making sure that there are others like me, and I'm not just talking about black individuals, but people of color, people of other ethnic origins and whatnot, know that there are opportunities and that organized veterinary medicine needs them. It's the diversity. It's actually diverse groups that have the greatest innovation in not just the country, but the world.
Yeah, it's crazy because when my son graduated from the University of Wyoming a couple of years ago, his speaker was an African-American lady, and she was from like Casper, Wyoming, and she said she was the only black nurse in the nursing program when she came through. How was it for you when you were coming through college, going to veterinary school?
Well, we start undergrad. Undergrad, I was one of only two blacks. I was a male and there was a female in my class. Veterinary school, I was actually lucky. I went to Tuskegee University in Alabama, a historically black school. So actually, it was the first time in my life where I was in a majority.
Yeah. So you were like, wow, what's going on here?
That's right. But still, we only, African Americans only account for 1.5% of the veterinary profession.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, he's changing that. That's why he's here. You've emphasized outside the box solutions. What are some challenges you aim to address before your term concludes?
Well, really what I'm doing is just things like this. I get on programs and I talk to people and hopefully I convince them that, hey, that guy knows something. And by doing that, you want to interact with me.
Yeah, for sure. He does know something. Because what were you doing? I mean, you've done all kinds of crazy things. What have you innovated for veterinarians out there?
Well, I'm very big into artificial intelligence. These days, who isn't? But yeah, I have 2 patents in artificial intelligence.
Wow.
I do lecturing all over. In fact, today, you and I are talking from Minnesota. Yesterday, I was in Green Bay, Wisconsin, in Lambeau Stadium talking to people. So I go wherever people are willing to talk with me.
Well, that's good. The veterinary brand, you've spoken about the need to communicate a stronger brand image for the profession. How can veterinarians better articulate their value to the public and policymakers?
Well, the first thing is making sure that even veterinarians know that our brand is much broader. We are almost anything you need. Yes, we take care of your pets. We take care of your production animals. But do you know that the first FDA-approved surgical robot was designed, built, programmed by a veterinarian?
I did not.
Veterinarians can do anything. Veterinarians go to space. You need veterinarians to be wherever people are.
Yeah, man. Reducing the cost of professional education and student debt is a cornerstone of your platform. What specific legislative or institutional changes are you advocating for?
Well, that is a broad topic because the cost of education all over is going up. But one of the things that we're looking at, there is an extreme shortage of veterinarians in underserved areas. And these underserved areas are actually rural areas, such as Wyoming. So we're working with the federal government trying to get a program for rural veterinary education extended so that if you go and work in these underserved areas, you will get a certain portion of your student loans forgiven every year for up to 5 years. So yeah, you have to pay them up front, but hopefully the federal government can reimburse. Actually, they pay the money directly to your student loan lenders, so you never see the money, but your loans get reduced. That way, we hopefully can get veterinarians into underserved areas, particularly rural areas. That also includes public health. And do you know that veterinarians are extremely vital in maintaining general public health, not just civilian, but also in the military?
Because in Wyoming, like when I went to UW, there's not a veterinary program. Is there any veterinary program in the entire state of Wyoming?
Not in the state of Wyoming. There are other states where people go to, and then hopefully you attract them to come back.
Yeah, because when I was at UW, you could go to Fort Collins, you can go to Colorado State University, but then the rub was always, it cost so much. You know, it was just way too expensive.
Veterinarians pay for their education the exact same as human doctors do. Our earning potential is not as high. This is not driven by the veterinary profession. It's driven by the educational institutions. So we're trying to do everything we can, whether it's through grants. We have foundations that give loans. We, of course, want to make sure that the student loan program remains available to all professionals, especially veterinarians, so that we can have people. You have to realize there are diseases. I'm going to take a little bit reminiscent right now. West Nile disease, when it first came into the United States in 1992, was recognized by a veterinarian. The human healthcare field ignored her until she basically got a little bit elbowy and said, "You will not ignore me. This is what's killing people in New York City." It's veterinarians that recognize these novel diseases. We need to be sure that veterinarians are always there as part of our health care team.
Yeah. We're chatting with Dr. Michael Bailey. He's the president of the American Veterinary Medical Association here on cowboystatedaily.com. In your recent columns, you've highlighted the power of mentorship. How can the American Veterinary Medical Association better support early career veterinarians from facing burnout?
Well, you know, the big thing is hopefully by having us older veterinarians talking to the younger generation of veterinarians, we can give tips, we can help. Also, we can answer questions when things come up. But one of the things I tell people all the way, mentorship is actually a two-way street. So when we're talking with the young veterinarians, say, you know, this is the way we've done things and found things working, the young veterinarian can say, well, you know, I like that idea, but if we put a little bend on it, we can make it more efficient. So you'd be surprised how mentorship can actually make the profession much easier. And by having somebody that you can basically sit there and chew the fat or maybe use a few of those expletives with, it sometimes right there helps reduce some of that stress that we're talking about.
Yeah, well, you mentioned AI. Where do you see AI having the most immediate impact? Is it diagnostics, clinical management, client communication? Where's it going to be?
Yes.
Yeah, all the above.
But here's the first thing. When we talk about AI, we first need to be sure what we're talking about, because we have things like avian influenza. So we don't want to have somebody think we're talking about avian influenza when we're really talking about artificial intelligence. So when it comes down to artificial intelligence, it is not better than a human being. It is faster than a human being. So it can integrate all this information. When it comes to diagnostics, when it comes to efficiency, it can pull data together much quicker than we can. So we can be working on all the pets all day long. And as we're going in to talk to Mr. and Mrs. Jones about what it is that's going on with their pet, the AI is compiling all this information. So when we walk in, say, okay, I can see that this is normal, but this is elevated. These are the three things that we're talking about. AI can help us to be that much more efficient. And by the way, by the end of the day, our records can be done because we're using that AI agent to help us consolidate everything. So we go home, we can enjoy our family, and maybe go for a horseback ride.
Yeah. Well, given your long history with telehealth dating back to 1990, how is the AVMA navigating the current debate over the veterinarian client-patient relationship and remote care?
Oh, that's a big topic right there. One of the things, first of all, I'd say if you have a lot of questions about that, one of the easiest things to do is go to avma.org, and we have a lot of information on there. But when it comes to the veterinary client-patient relationship, there's a standard in most, if not all states, that you need to see the animal or the facility at least once a year. Now, once you've established that, you can actually use telehealth to do a lot of your communication through the year. So as long as we've established that relationship, we can still have a telehealth or a remote communication, and we can say, you can manage that by doing this, or I'll be out there today or tomorrow, or I'll send an associate out there. You can make those decisions so you make sure the trip is profitable for both ends. And we don't have to wait long time, weeks in many cases, in order to get the care, because you get the answer up front. Yes, we need to see you immediately, or no, we can make an appointment for that. And in the case of a state like Wyoming, that can be quite a distance you have to travel, and you don't want to get there and find out it's unnecessary.
Yeah, that's for sure. Your media tours often cover seasonal pet safety. What's the most common misconception pet owners have about emergency preparedness?
Well, the first thing is they don't realize they need to prepare before the emergency happens.
Yeah.
You need to have that go bag. You need in that go bag, you need to have medications. You need to have their leash. You need to have a list of what their medical concerns may be. You need to have some food in through there. So if something comes up, you can just grab the bag and go. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the humans as well as the animals, or is it the animals as well as the humans? So you need to have go bags for everybody in the family. Do not leave your pets behind because you think you're going to come back and get them, and then you find out the roads are closed or something. So we want everybody to bring the pets. And one of the biggest things about first responders, and I have a son who's a police officer in the military, another son who's a paramedic firefighter. We don't want to put those first responders at risk because they're trying to get you when you try to go back into the pet.
Yeah.
So, and it depends on what the emergency is also, but that go bag can just go with you. If you're talking about snowstorms, if you're talking about fire, you want to have a plan beforehand. Where would you go if something comes up? Make sure it's pet friendly. And then we cannot forget the large livestock who we may not be able to pack in our car. What are your plans for them? Do they have a high and dry protected area where they can go into? Or maybe even a neighbor's pasture you can put them in that's separated from where the wildfire might go by. So try to think about these things beforehand. Preparedness is the best suggestion I can give you.
Yeah, for most things in life, be prepared, no matter if it's just for your pet or not. There's been public discussion regarding your views on aversive training tools like shock collars. How do you reconcile these tools with the AVMA's evolving stance on behavioral science and animal welfare?
Well, the first thing comes down to we don't want to use any aversive activities more than they are necessary. Ideally, they're not necessary at all. I just want to be sure that if somebody's in a particular situation where they find it necessary, give you an example, you have a dog you're trying to train not to touch a potential bomb, that might be a case. But our general opinion is we would prefer to use gentle methods in order to tell the pet that is it, stop.
Yeah. Are we making it home this weekend?
Am I making it home this weekend? Actually, I have a plane this afternoon. I hope to be home for a couple days before I'm back on the road again.
Well, that's good. Easter plans, so we're just heading home.
I'm going home. My wife and I are going out to dinner on Easter because our kids are both out of town. So I'm trying to make it so she doesn't have to do any extra work on Easter, and neither do I. So we're going to enjoy ourselves.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Michael Bailey, the president of the American Veterinary Medical Association, thanks so much for your time this morning.
Anytime. I'll be up in Wyoming in June. It's the 50th anniversary of the Wyoming Veterinary Medical Association. Happy birthday, guys.
Wow. Where are you going to be at?
Oh.
Is it Cheyenne?
Laramie?
Oh, are you going to be in Laramie?
Yeah, Laramie.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll check him out. Look for that in June. Well, thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
We'll be right back after this.
JB Hunt now has CLA truck driving jobs in the Cheyenne area, and they're hiring Class A drivers for a local dedicated route. Drivers can make $78,000 a year and be home every night. Plus, medical benefits after 30 days on the job, also earning paid time off on your first day, and enjoy other perks like a company-matched 401k. As a company founded by a truck driver, JB Hunt is driven for you. So head to drivejbhunt.com to see the JB Hunt difference. That's drivejbhunt.com.
You're listening to the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Sometimes fatherhood
I'm the first Viking who wouldn't kill a dragon.
can feel like an epic battle.
But you will.
But you can change your kid's world just by being there. And with a little help, you won't believe how high they can soar.
All right, bud, you ready?
I'm proud to cook my son.
Come on!
Never stop being a dad. To learn more, visit fathersincorporated.com.
Logan Wilson here at the M Building in Casper, Wyoming. They do more than just support businesses and private events. They support nonprofits by offering reduced rates to help the community thrive. The staff here at the M Building have been incredible in helping me organize a fantastic event. They are great partners for those who want to make a positive impact on the community. Come check out the M for your next event.
For decades, I've taught you everything I know. How to safely build a fire. How to control the flames. What to do with hot coals. How to secure your chains.
There's no sparks.
But I can only teach wildfire prevention. Only you can prevent wildfires.
$14 minutes till the top of the hour. Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake right here on cowboystatedaily.com. Jeff hanging out with you, filling in for Jake as Jake's on vacation. Day 5 so far this week. It's Friday, Good Friday, April 3rd. What do you got plans for Easter? Send me a text, 307-620-8866, or give me a call. Same number, 307-620-8866. You can also watch us on YouTube, Facebook, X. Let's see here. YO Best Roads. In the 80s, Wyoming all-weather sports complex, no students. Okay. Some people chatting in the YouTube chat room. But yeah, send me a text at the 620-8866 number. See if my text line is working this morning. I don't know if I've got one yet today or not. Are you looking forward to the Final Four this weekend? Should be interesting. I don't know. Illinois, UConn tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and then 6:49, Michigan versus Arizona. Wouldn't it be great if the Wyoming Cowboys were in the Final Four? Could it ever happen again? Maybe. I saw one of the kids who's going to be a senior yesterday said he was staying with the program. So that was good news for Coach Sundance Wicks. Because, yeah, the portal opens, I think, on April 7th. It's either the 7th or the 9th, where it'll be the Wild Wild West for college basketball. We'll see what happens. We did already get one kid out of the portal, or is committed to coming to the University of Wyoming. So that's good news. And he's got a couple incoming freshmen. Things are looking good for the Wyoming Cowboy basketball team. Let's see here. Michigan's favored by 1.5 over Arizona. And Illinois is favored by 1.5 over UConn. Crazy. Well, Andrew Rossi had the story. Oh no, Evanston residents worried about Big Betty, their friendly neighborhood moose. Big Betty, a popular Evanston neighborhood moose, showed up Wednesday with a large raw injury. Locals were alarmed. After all, she had been visiting the neighborhood for 3 years. We all love her so much. Let's bring in Andrew to talk about Big Betty. What's happened to Big Betty, Andrew? It's a mystery.
Well, we shouldn't make light of the story. There's a very potent concern for her safety in the community of Evanston. I'm just kidding. Nobody knows what happened to Big Betty. There's just a big patch of pink exposed skin on her right side, and Wyoming Game and Fish went out there to take a look at it, and they said could be an injury. She could have been clipped by a car, but she didn't seem to be injured in any other way. She could have rubbed the fur off herself as they itch and rub against things in the spring, because that's what moose and a lot of other animals do. But the big takeaway was that they didn't see anything to be outwardly concerned about, but everyone's still concerned about their friendly neighborhood moose.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, only in Wyoming does a moose come and just hang out in your yard.
Yeah, I mean, I think most communities have their herds of urban mule deer. I know I've got several that are lurking around my neighborhood, so I always have to drive slowly because you never know when they're going to be wandering across without a care in the world. We don't have a moose up here, though, so I think it's pretty special that Evanston has its own moose. And I guess I'd be concerned if there was a moose that had strong feelings towards that was roaming around my neighborhood and it wasn't in good shape, because it's a pretty iconic animal. You always know when your moose is in your neighborhood.
Yeah. It kind of sticks out a little bit. You mentioned Evanston Game and Fish comes by. They're like, she's doing all right. She's nothing's hurting her too bad. But I think, looking at it, it kind of looks like maybe she was just rubbing up against something.
That makes the most sense to Wyoming Game and Fish. And I think the other thing is that there's heightened scrutiny just because we're not used to seeing these animals so up close. Like, you see moose from a distance, even mule deer, you usually aren't within a couple feet of them where you can just sit and watch them for such a long period of time. And it is that time of year when they like to rub themselves against things. And in that case, she might have rubbed so aggressively that some of her fur came off, and it's not a death sentence. And on top of that, it was a wet, cold day in Evanston. So when you've got wet moose fur that's dark, it makes the pink skin stand out all the more. So it probably looked a lot worse than it felt. But you can't fault people for being concerned about, we all value our wildlife. And when our wildlife happens to crash in our backyards, I mean, the connection and the affection's there.
Yeah, for sure. You wrote how a full-grown moose doesn't have many predators, except for ticks. This is insane, Andrew. This made my skin crawl. You said a moose could have 50,000 to 100,000 ticks on it.
Yeah, in the eastern U.S., they've found moose that have had that many ticks on their bodies, and they've taken down full-grown adults. And for whatever reason, they seem particularly susceptible to tick infestations. And that is an issue here. We've done some stories about that in the past. But moose don't really have a lot of other frequent natural predators out there. Like wolves will occasionally go after moose. I'm sure a grizzly will try to go after a moose every now and again, but they're big and they're aggressive. But you get enough ticks on them and they can lead to loss of blood, loss of weight, and just an overall loss of health. It's pretty serious stuff. But in this case, with Big Betty, they saw no sign of a tick infestation that she was dealing with, or at least one to the point where it was concerning. You can see some really gnarly animals covered with all sorts of ticks, but they didn't see that with Big Betty. So not saying that she doesn't have a tick infestation, they just didn't see any evidence of it.
Yeah, because maybe she was rubbing some ticks off. Maybe that's why the big patch of hair is gone. How long does
we all?
Yeah, exactly. How long does Big Betty hang out?
So from what I heard, and just from what people have told me, she's pretty frequents the area pretty often. Like in this case, the person I spoke to said that she was in her yard for a good 7-8 hours, just crashed in the front yard, then moved about its way. So everybody seems to keep tabs on where Big Betty is and what she's doing. And we know those animals are smart. They can't be hurt in city confines, in the sense of they're not going to be hunted. A grizzly or a wolf's not going to descend into Evanston to go get Big Betty, and no one's going to be able to legally take her with their moose tag. So they know they're safe there. I mean, you hear stories all the time of mule deer who know that they're safe. I was talking to Paul Ulrich last week about this one beautiful mule deer buck in Pinedale, and he's confident that that buck is living in Pinedale because he knows he can't be hurt while he's in Pinedale. No one's going to take him home and put him on their wall if he's within city limits. So they're smart enough to recognize where they're safe.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is that the reason? I mean, I imagine that's why the deer are here in town, because they're everywhere. They're like, hey, I'm safe. There's food. You think it's Big Betty? Is it safety? Is it food? What? All the above?
It could be all that and more. I mean, some people even said that when she has calves, she'll be in tow with her, so she feels safe enough to take her calves to people's backyards in Evanston. So she has to have some sense of founded security when she's moving around.
Yeah. Not scared of anything, or yeah, she feels nice and safe, so that's good.
Well, what's Big Betty got to be scared of?
Exactly. Don't mess with Big Betty. Yeah, it's a great story. The Yellowstone tearing down the old bridge. This is crazy. They built this 1,285 foot long, 180 foot tall Yellowstone bridge. It's finished, so now they're demolishing the old one. $118 million, Andrew. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, well, actually, Yellowstone sent me an email saying the overall cost is actually $134 million. So they must have had to cover some other expenses, minor expenses, to change that figure. But yeah, it's one of the biggest infrastructure projects in the park in decades, and it's not going to hold that title for long. But the fact that they put that much money into it to make a structure that is that impressive, and I've heard mixed opinions about the new bridge, but I don't think anyone can deny that it's a really cool feat of engineering that is trying to fit into the landscape as seamlessly as possible, which was what the problem with the original bridge was, is that they had to do so much to get that bridge in there, and they didn't necessarily think it through as soundly as they could have. This new bridge was designed with the landscape in mind. It's bigger and longer, but it has less of an impact on the landscape overall. And I think it's just really flippin' cool. I'm eager to go over it when I'm in the park next. It's a really cool feat of engineering.
Yeah, because how long did this take?
Started in 2023, and they opened the new bridge in November of last year. It's kind of not a big pomp and circumstance like they usually do with that sort of thing. It was just, it's open now. And then they're hoping to have the old bridge completely removed by the end of this year. So that probably if you're going into the park this summer, you'll be able to watch that slow demolition, or I guess removal of that bridge in action. Not going to be using any blasting. They're starting to remove sections of the concrete deck. Then they'll take away the steel support beams. Then they'll take the piers. Then they'll rehabilitate both sides of the canyon where the bridge was and the road leading to it, because that whole corridor has been rerouted. And then it's done.
Man, what a project. What's been the critiques of the new bridge?
People say it's like, yeah, reading the comments and getting the emails, as we always do when we write stories like this, a lot of people say that it removes them from the landscape, that it makes them feel more distant, which I don't necessarily see as all that much of a bad thing, because the landscape is there for the animals. That's why we like Yellowstone, is because it's in its natural state, except for the spots where we can pull off and get a hot dog and a Slurpee at one of the visitor centers and whatnot. But people are saying like they like the idea of the old bridge. It was really close to the Yellowstone River, and they felt like they were actually immersed in the landscape. This new bridge, though, it had to be built with the idea that it's going to be open year-round, because that northeast entrance road is the only park road that stays open year-round. People from Cook City and Silvergate need to be able to get up to Mammoth and Gardner to function in the winter. Otherwise, they're completely isolated. So this bridge is going to be able to handle the traffic volume, stay open in year-round conditions, and again, it has less of an impact on the landscape than the bridge it's replacing. So that's a win all around, and that's what's really cool about Yellowstone's current construction projects is that they're thinking, how can we make the best road corridor possible with the least amount of impact on Yellowstone itself? And I'm really eager to see what they should be announcing soon, what they're going to do with the North Entrance Road that they're currently planning. And that's going to be around a $300 million project. So it's going to blow this one out of the water.
Holy cow. That's crazy. What do we got going on this weekend, Andrew?
What have I got going on this weekend?
Yeah,
well, they're doing a soft opening, invitation only of Cassie's Steakhouse up in Cody. And I was fortunate enough to get an invitation for that. So I'm going to be enjoying the first steak dinner served at Cassie's since it closed a couple of years ago. That's going to be pretty fun.
Awesome. Well, that's cool. Because, yeah, we chatted with one of the co-owners, and it doesn't open until, April 17th? So...
And that's the official public opening, but they wanted to do a soft launch just to see how everything functions and get people in there that aren't going to be too critical. And so I guess they decided that inviting a Cowboy State Daily journalist would be a good way to get a non-critical review.
Yeah, it's somebody that won't talk about it. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thanks so much, Andrew. Enjoy. We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. There's Andrew Rossi. Go check out his articles at cowboystatedaily.com. It's about the top of the hour. It's time for news, and then we'll chat with Bill Sniffen coming up after the news.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming. From the Cowboy State Daily News Center, I'm Mac Watson. Tensions between Governor Mark Gordon and Secretary of State Chuck Gray erupted again Thursday during a meeting of the Wyoming Board of Land Commissioners concerning attainable housing. Cowboy State Daily's David Madison reports Gordon told Gray to, quote, shut up during a debate and invited him to step out of the room.
Secretary Gray introduced an amendment. As the debate continued, there was a little bit of crosstalk where Superintendent of Public Instruction Megan Degenfelder was speaking and Chuck Gray was speaking at about the same time. And it's the chair's job, Governor Mark Gordon, to keep order. And he apparently had enough because he raised his voice. He told Chuck Gray to shut up and to stop. And then he stood up and kind of pointed as though, would you like to step outside? I did not hear him say it this time, but the body language was pretty clear. In response, Chuck Gray said the governor was violating his own rules of decorum, and then the meeting took a pause. When they came back, they continued to debate the amendment and ultimately tabled it.
In a statement to Cowboy State Daily after the tense exchange, Gray said his amendment would ensure that state projects, quote, mirror what President Trump has done at the federal level, unquote. Gray also accused Gordon of being a, quote, liberal, unquote. Superintendent of Public Instruction Megan Degenfelder has apologized for her department's release of unredacted student information in a public records request. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that Degenfelder says the release was the result of human error and those involved have been reprimanded.
It was a public apology because her office released unredacted student information pursuant to a public records request that the Sweetwater County School District Superintendent had filed. A parent filed for the same batch of records, and according to the leader of that parent group, also received a file dump of unredacted information. Degenfelder said that the people involved in this disclosure were reprimanded and aren't handling public records anymore.
The error came to light after a member of a group of parents in Sweetwater County School District Number 1 announced publicly that the district had asked the department in a public records request for a substantial amount of parent complaints. I'll be back with more news from the Cowboy State Daily News Center right after this. Here's another driving safety tip from WYDOT. Download the Wyoming 511 app for hands-free information on your mobile device. This has been another safety tip from the Wyoming Department of Transportation.
My name is Joanne, and I'm a mom of 6 here in Casper, Wyoming. When you raise a family here, you don't just think about today, you think about the future, where your kids will build their lives and where your grandkids might grow up. What worries me is that my kids will have to leave Wyoming to find good, high-paying jobs. That's why Build Wyoming matters to me. Data center jobs are high-quality, high-paying jobs, the kind that give families a real reason to stay and build a future here. Give our kids and grandkids a reason to stay, and they will.
Build Wyoming with Prometheus Hyperscale. Go to buildwyoming.com.
Cowboy State Daily News continues now. Gillette-based L&H Industrial built some of the massive hardware that helped the Artemis II rocket blast off on Wednesday, taking astronauts to the moon for the first time in 50 years. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that this isn't the first time the company has built components for NASA.
So that was LNH's first job for NASA, was redesigning these crawlers to carry that much weight. But it's also got to make sure that it's shunting all that force away from the rocket, because you can't have that bouncing back up and hitting the rocket. All that heat, all that force, it's going to destroy the rocket before it ever takes off.
LNH spokeswoman Brittany Thomas tells Cowboy State Daily that the deflector plates were actually the second project LNH handled for Artemis II. Now that the new almost 1,300-foot long, 180-foot tall Yellowstone Bridge is finished, demolition crews are dismantling the 65-year-old bridge that stood in its place. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports that the teardown is expected by the end of the year, and the new bridge should last almost 100 years.
The concrete deck of the old bridge is being slowly dismantled, starting at one end and going across. And as the spring and summer progress, they're going to take down the steel supporting beams and then the piers that have been keeping this bridge up for the last 60 years. And the new bridge, which cost over $118 million and is over 1,000 feet long, not only is a much bigger project, it actually has less of an impact on the landscape.
The Yellowstone River Bridge project began in 2023 and officially opened in 2025. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting that daily newsletter button at cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Mac Watson for Cowboy State Daily.
My name is Dre, and I had a stroke when I was only 16 years old.
It was a normal Saturday. He played 2 games back to back. During the games, something was off. He said his arm felt heavy. By 1 a.m., he was in emergency brain surgery because he was having a stroke.
I didn't want to, but I felt like I was just giving up.
That's when I found American Heart Association. They saved me that night. I don't know if Dre would be here today if it wasn't for the work that the American Heart Association has done.
The American Heart Association supports life-saving research that leads to medical breakthroughs. We are fighting to help prevent death from heart disease and stroke, educating people on prevention and early detection, and working every day to find treatments and cures so you and your loved ones can live happier, healthier lives. To learn more, go to heart.org today.
Two hours down, 2 hours to go. Happy Good Friday to you. Jeff hanging out, filling in for Jake this week and next. Cowboy State Daily Radio Show with Jake. Jake's on vacation. I am in snow, wind, blizzard conditions right now in Sheridan, Wyoming. Winter's actually hit finally. It's April 3rd. It's taken a bit. Let's check in with Bill Sniffen. See what he's up to today. Bill, how are you doing?
Well, it's I'm doing just great. I love the moisture. We this is, I'm the old guy in Cowboy State Daily. I'm 80 years old and I've been in the media business for 56 years in Wyoming. And but I've never seen a winter like this. This is and as we get older, we all become dedicated weather watchers.
Yeah.
And boy, I tell you, it's just never been anything like it. So anytime we can get some moisture, that's wonderful. And frankly, this April is a big moisture month for landers. So we're not getting the blizzard you're getting in Sheridan, but it's looking like there's some potential for some. So we're sure hoping. But
yeah.
Anyway, that's what's going on. It's Good Friday. Few things going on in Wyoming. Jeff, you seem to be doing a good job filling in. Do you like doing this?
Yes, it's been fun. I've had a good time. It's consumed my life completely because I've been pulling 12-hour shifts. I'm still doing my day job after this until 6 o'clock at night, and then I come home and prep for the next day's show. So I'm today, when I get done with work, I think I'm going to sleep for about a day and a half.
Yeah, I guess I say I feel for you, and but we can talk about a few things. I'm I think as Andrew was talking about the various animals you see. A few years ago, we had a moose that was roaming around our local river, the Middle Fork of the Poposia River. And that was wonderful. It became kind of the town moose, and then he just sort of disappeared. But we have a town herd of whitetail and mule deer, and I'm always writing about that and how I love the muleys because that's our local Wyoming deer. Whereas these doggone whitetail, they're the interlopers. So get them out of here. And plus, they're way too pretty. The whitetails are way too pretty. We like our homely old muleys.
Yeah, we like the rough-looking mule deers.
Exactly. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But the big news, wildlife-wise, in Lander is, they blame it on wolves. But about 5-6 years ago, all of a sudden, a giant elk herd materialized in the foothills of Lander over the fall and winter months and spring months. And so you can go out and see this gigantic elk herd. And it's just, like I said, I've lived there for over a century, and this is a very new development. So it's pretty spectacular. And
that's awesome. That's a good thing. The wolves bringing the elk down. Everybody can see the elk herd. That's
what's the downside of that? Except I guess if I had a big haystack somewhere, I'd be upset.
Yeah, they're chomping on that. You had a story, The Futurist Thinks Wyoming Could Thrive in an AI Robotic Future. You're chatting with your buddy, Jeff Wacker. Tell us about Jeff.
Well, Jeff is, got to be I discovered, I went to a national conference, and he was the speaker. This was probably somewhere after 2010. But he holds up our little cell phone and he says, "This is the future. We'll all be living on this with this device in the future." And of course, everybody there just kind of laughed because it's a phone, And of course, sure enough. But I interviewed him afterwards because I write a weekly column and I'm always looking for topics. And he come to find out he loves Wyoming, but more importantly, he lives in Dallas, and he's a neighbor to my daughter, lives in the same subdivision. So we decided that when I go down to Dallas, I'd go have lunch with him, and we did, and we've been great friends ever since. He grew up in western Nebraska, so he knows Wyoming well, and he thinks we're headed to a terrible time where we're going to have there are just not going to be enough jobs because of AI and because of robots. And he says that's the silver lining is that there will be universal basic income. Everybody will get it. It'll be a little like COVID when everybody was getting a paycheck, even if they weren't working. But he thinks the big cities are just going to be heavy because there's just so many people and nowhere for people to go and nothing for people to do and a lot of mischief. Whereas Wyoming, because we don't have big cities, we'll be a little better in our wide open spaces. So plus the resilience of Wyoming people, he admires, he likens Wyoming people to his people in western Nebraska, and I think that's true. I think we can cope a little better with things than our city dweller cousins. But that was kind of the gist of it. But I think he felt overall that there will be huge blessings because of efficiencies. We'll all have our personal robots, he believes, but the downside is that what's your purpose now in life? Where you used to go to work and do something, and someday I could be talking to a robot here instead of talking to Jeff, and I guess, or you could be talking to a robot too. So
Yeah, I can't even. I've heard this where people say, Elon Musk said it, and people were like, "What?" And now Jeff's saying it. Can you even wrap your head around that, Bill? From your 80 years of experience, where people just don't have to work and we're just going to be making money.
I've always been an early adopter, and I do try to stay on top of things. I turn my computer on with my phone or with my wristwatch. I pay my credit card bills at the store with my Apple Watch. So I'm trying to, and when I do that, a few people say, "Whoa, that's pretty impressive." And I say, "Yeah, and I'm 80 years old." I'm trying to stay on top of it. But seriously, I worry. I've got 4 kids and 13 grandkids and 5 great grandkids, and I really worry about the world that they're going to grow up in because I believe in work. I think that we all need a purpose, and it's I don't know how much fishing and golfing and painting and stuff a person can do to anyway. I do worry about it. I'm not sure I'll be around to fully experience it. I'm doing the best I can, but yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. Is I just thought it was very interesting because when I sat down to talk to him, I had no idea what he was going to say, but I always try to relate what a futurist. Now, keep in mind, he worked for Hewlett Packard, a company with 300,000 employees, and it had one futurist, and it was him. I mean, he's a smart guy. And so I was thinking, well, whatever he says, it's going to be great, but I want him to write it or tell it to me as how it affects Wyoming. And of course, that was very encouraging. I thought what he said is that he thinks we'll be better off than most places. So
yeah,
I was happy to write that up, and but anyway, so that's kind of what I was talking about there.
Yeah, well, I like that you're using your Apple Watch. I worked at Verizon for like 2 years just recently, and people would come in, and that was their excuse. Well, I'm 75 years old, and we'd be like, it doesn't matter. Here's Bill. He's 80. He's using his Apple Watch to pay his groceries. Figure it out. That was always everyone's excuse. It's like age is not an excuse.
No, it is not an excuse. And again, you try to. The other side of that whole coin is, of course, I've got a lot of friends who have died, a lot of friends who are ill, and I'm a great believer in use it or lose it. And boy, staying active is hard. It's so easy just to put your feet up and watch TV or not go. I try to go to the swimming pool twice a week, and I claim I'm going swimming. My wife says I'm going bobbing. And that's true because the pool has laps or lanes, and they have a thing called water jogging, and it's for us old farts that we can jog literally against the force of the water, and it's makes you feel good and keeps you active. But anyway, that's just one of the things I do. Try to do a lot of walking, and I've got a bad hip though, so I'm. Our great man in Wyoming was Al Simpson, the former U.S. Senator, died just about exactly a year ago. But Al used to say, when old people get together, they have a organ recital. How's your heart? How's your how's your liver? And that's what I'm doing now. I'm just about to launch into an organ recital. I'll stop there.
Yeah, that's what my mom says. The older you get, it's just all doctor's appointments. That's all she does.
Well, it really is the high point of your day sometimes. But again, speaking again about the weather, which again, that's something us old farts if we're not talking about our health, we're talking about weather.
Yeah.
Lander gets 116 inches of snow every year. I mean, it's a big snow area. Lander and Sheridan are similar towns in that they don't get a lot of wind and they're sheltered by the mountains and have fabulous climates. But Lander gets way more snow than Sheridan. And I don't think we've had 10 or 15 inches of snow this year.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that April will be one heck of a wet April, and the ideal is it rains every day in April and May, but it snows in the mountains every day, and that'll get us back to normal. But last I checked, I think our snowpack was 60%, something like that, and that bodes terrible for fire season, man. And then these winds we've all had, which Sheridan again is like Lander. We're famous for not getting a lot of wind. And yet it's just been a hurricane. I mean, it blew down there 100 miles an hour. And I've got old trees down in my yard. And I'm afraid to take a chainsaw to them because a spark will burn the whole town down.
Yeah. Oh, the winds. I mean, so it's been the same way there. The winds in Sheridan, I've never, ever seen them like this year.
No, it doesn't make sense. And if you're in Casper or Cheyenne or Cody or Rollins or Rock Springs, you're used to it. But man, those of us that live in Buffalo and Worland and Sheridan and Landers, say, what the heck? What's this going on? So, well, what I'm working on right now, Jeff, is I've got a column that I'm going to publish this Sunday, and it's talking about political races. And I actually participated in 2 statewide races. I ran for governor in 2002, and then I helped a guy run in 2018. And I was sharing in that you go back and find the 3 leading candidates in 2002, and they spent about an average of $10 per vote. It was odd that you could see how much they spent and then how many votes they got, and it translated almost to $10 a vote. And I always thought that's horrible. God, imagine you have to spend $10 for every vote for a primary election. Well, four cycles later in 2018, there were people spending over $100 a vote. And whereas we were spending in the 100 to 200,000 range back in 2002, these folks, 3 people spent over $2 million in the primary campaign for Republican governor. I mean, those numbers are unbelievable. And in a little state like Wyoming. And so anyway, that's going to be the gist of my column, but it's going to be also how my wife came up with this idea because I have an unusual last name, Sniffen. She thought we should get candy bars. So we got Snickers candy bars and put a cover on them that said Sniffin' Bars. And we gave out 10,000 of those. And I've always said that I was the only candidate in American history who gained weight during a campaign. Because I always had a cooler of Snicker bars in my car. And I ended up feeding all the other candidates and all their staff. And we were pretty popular in the parades. Of course, we gave away so many candy bars. There's so many parades. So I'm going to write about politics as I know it, as I've been involved in a lot of things. I've been covering, of course, political races the entire time I've been in Wyoming. So I'm kind of a fountain of useless information sometimes.
Because, Ogden Driscoll was on Monday, and I think he said, his first race he spent $7,000 to win, and then now this year, who knows what he's going to have to spend on this campaign. It's going to be a tough one. So, he's going to be all over on that. But, it's crazy. My grandpa was in the House of Representatives, John Martin in Johnson County, and he would buy like a box of trash bags with his name on it. And that was like it. He'd go in the parade. I would like to see how much money he spent back in, the 80s.
Well, it was personal politics, and doggone it, Wyoming is still personal politics. I mean, when you're, I'll tell you that you could win that U.S. House race in the primary this time with 20,000 votes, and or less. And if you're going to spend a year out there knocking on doors, there's potentially the chance you'll get to meet every single one of those voters. I mean, I call it retail politicking because it's not like we're in a big state like California or Texas or somewhere where there's hundreds of thousands of people and you have to use the media. You literally, if you want to work hard enough, you can go shake 20,000 hands in a year. So it's very personal politics, and again, I love politics and I love Wyoming politics, and anyway, it's an exciting time, Jeff.
Yeah. What's going on this weekend? The kids coming to see you? What's your Easter plans?
We have some kids in Lander. We've got 3 of our grandkids there, and but the kids that batch is grown. So what I do is I always do an Easter egg hunt, and for my daughter and my and I get to hide the eggs. And man, I tell you, I really hide them, and I mean And now this is beyond the religious services. So let's go back a minute and say, look, Easter is the biggest holiday of the year, a religious holiday. But But from a personal family thing after church and all that, I hide these Easter eggs, and I hide them so well that sometimes months later, somebody will find an egg or a shell and say, "What the heck?" And so that's kind of, again, one of the traditions at our house is that old Grandpa Bill gets to, I'm actually known as Pop-Op, and so Pop-Op gets to hide the eggs. So that's a nice thing, and always eat too much. And usually the weather's pretty good, but we've had a couple Easters. One Easter we had years ago when our kids were still at home that I got smart and I went out and hid all the eggs the night before, and then it snowed like crazy. And the kids got up and I thought, oh my God, now what? And you know what? Those kids went out in the snow and burrowed around. Yeah. It was great. It's very memorable as it turned out.
Yeah, they love that. Well, Bill, have a great Easter weekend. Thanks so much for coming on.
Jeff, good to be here, and thanks for having me on. See ya.
We'll be right back after this.
JB Hunt now has CLA truck driving jobs in the Cheyenne area, and they're hiring Class A drivers for a local dedicated route. Drivers can make $78,000 a year and be home every night. Plus, medical benefits after 30 days on the job, also earning paid time off on your first day, and enjoy other perks like a company-matched 401k. As a company founded by a truck driver, JB Hunt is driven for you. So head to drivejbhunt.com to see the JB Hunt difference. That's drivejbhunt.com. Seroptimist of Cody presents Uncorked and Untapped, the brand new tasting experience. Saturday, April 11th at the Cody Auditorium in Cody. Sample Wyoming crafted wine, bourbon, whiskey, and beer, plus incredible bites from local restaurants and food trucks. There'll be live games, a silent auction from 7 to 10 p.m. Get your tickets now at Legends Bookstore or online at codyseroptimist.org. Tickets are $50 now, $60 at the door. Must be 21 to attend. Uncorked and Untapped, where Wyoming comes to celebrate.
This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Mom, I got it. What are you doing in there?
I got stuff.
Are you a dog?
I wouldn't do that. Have you seen the pliers? Where'd you find those?
It's not your birthday.
Sorry.
Bye, Grandpa.
Bye, Grandpa.
Take care of yourself.
What are you doing? What are you looking for?
I don't think many kids in my son's school even do it.
He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer.
She's on the honor roll.
She's just not the type.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way. My kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping. Maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Life's daily battles are not meant to be fought alone.
Welcome back, Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. Jeff filling in for Jake this week as Jake is on vacation. 27 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. My mom just texted me. She lives outside of Buffalo. She has no electricity right now, so good thing we're on the air this morning. So don't be coming up here with no electricity. But yeah, she said she's trying to listen to the show. Stream it on your phone, Mom. I can barely look out my window because it's covered in snow because the wind is howling here in Sheridan, Wyoming. We've got like blizzard-like conditions. I can't tell if it's still snowing outside or if it's just blowing the snow everywhere. Well, the Cheyenne Children's Museum is hosting a weather balloon launch event, Race to Space, at the Children's Museum on April 25th. Tate Schrock is with Edge Flight, and Carson Black is the Cheyenne Children's Museum Community Catalyst Coordinator, and they join us here this morning in the Zoom room. Welcome, guys. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Well, man, big event for you two. Tell us about this.
Well, I'll go first really quick, Tate, and just give a quick intro that this is the first really big event that the Cheyenne Children's Museum is putting on since our soft opening last February and our official ribbon cutting and hard launch opening last August. And it's happening on Saturday, April 25th.
Wow, so this is the first time, Cheyenne just got a children's museum?
Yes. Yep. We've been open a little over a year with our soft opening, which was they didn't tell anybody that they were open. It was kind of a word of mouth thing. And that was really a trial period to see how fast things were going to break, what we would need to invest more in, what kids wanted to see, what exhibits maybe weren't hitting so hard with the community. And we've been thriving ever since.
Huh, interesting. Where are you guys at?
We're in the west side of downtown. So we're part of the West Edge development and trying to get some fresh businesses booming in the downtown area.
Well, that's good. Edge Flight, Tate, tell us about this.
Happy to. So Edge Flight, we're a local startup. We've been in business for a little over 3 years now. We're making waves in the CubeSat industry, which is small satellites, as well as weather balloon technology, which is pretty key for this sort of a style of event. This sort of style event, we're releasing some new stuff. We're going to be live streaming the actual footage from the balloon live during its flight process. On top of that, the ground infrastructure as well, to where not only people on site can see it, but people across the entire Cowboy State can see it too.
Yeah, this is interesting because your company, this is what you do. You send stuff up into space. Is it what? Because when I click on the link, I think I've got it still up here. What's this box on your guys's this CubeSat kit? This is interesting.
Yep, so that's a small form factor satellite. It's mostly designed for educational applications to get that first step of what it takes to become an next space scientist or next satellite designer. That is a fundamental, fully functional satellite that you could probably even take up on a weather balloon or even put into space with a few modifications.
Wow, and you can, I can get one of these.
Correct.
Huh, where's Edge Flight? Where are you guys located?
So we're not too far away from the center of Cheyenne. We're right by the airport.
Yeah, because this CubeSat kit, here it is, $525. And yeah, it's just like, it's literally a square.
Yep. It's a cube satellite, which is a form factor developed by Cal Poly. It's a standardized structure that people can utilize to build small spacecraft missions. They flexibly go up in size depending on the mission type, but fundamentally it's all still the same size.
So we're launching a weather balloon. Is that going to be the first thing? Because it's going to take a while. What's going to happen?
There's so much happening. I'll have Carson answer some of those.
Yeah, man, what a loaded question. Where do we even start? I guess I suppose I'll start with the fact that this event really came to fruition because of the generosity of Gordon Oberg, who was a longtime Cheyenne teacher, big name in the community, really cared about kids learning and lifelong learning. And we had a rocket launcher exhibit, which is an interactive display. I should note that the Cheyenne Children's Museum is entirely hands-on. It's not like you're walking through the Louvre or the State Museum. It is hands-on play, experiential learning. And so Gordon Oberg very graciously donated the funds so that we could have our own rocket launcher exhibit after the temporary display that was on loan from us from the Science Zone in Casper went back to its home. And he unfortunately passed away before he could see the exhibit come back to life in the museum. And so this is, we're doing a formal exhibit dedication in honor of his wife, who he donated the funds in honor of. And then we're going to follow that with a really big family experiential learning day where we are going to string paper rockets that people can make with the rocket launcher exhibit, which tests engineering and size and velocity. And we'll string all of these paper rockets together. We're going to limit it to 60. And then we're going to attach them to the payload of Tate's weather balloon and send them up to the stratosphere. And then after Tate and the team recover it, they'll bring the payload back, and families will be able to take back home their now artifacts that have touched the edge of space.
Incredible. Yeah, the kids have to love a rocket launcher exhibit.
Oh yes, it is extremely hands-on. So it's a set of 2 tubes, and it's very limited instructions. We provide the materials, and we provide kind of a loose step 1, step 2, see how this works. But it's really self-driven in the sense that we want to see what kids and adults, for that matter, what they will fashion, what kinds of rockets work and what kinds don't. When you put them in these tubes, you will then crank a lever, which reenacts the physics and the chemistry behind an actual rocket launch. And then you push a button after you've built up all the pressure, and it shoots the rocket out of the tube up into the air.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, Tate, because this weather balloon, it's going to go up for 2 hours. You said it's going to go up to Colorado or Nebraska. You've got GPS on it. How does the thing come back?
So as it makes its journey up there, the pressure becomes too extreme, and the balloon has no other choice but to burst. When that bursts, that entire package that's underneath it comes down at near terminal velocity, extremely high speeds. And as it comes down, when the atmosphere starts to rebuild closer to Earth, it has enough air inside of the actual parachute for the parachute to fully function. So it'll make a pretty soft touchdown. But throughout that whole process, it'll reach temperatures up to negative 60 degrees Celsius and almost a near vacuum, which is basically what space is, the absence of air.
Man, and then how does it collect the data?
So this data will be both live streamed on the atmospheric side as well as the camera side, and then additionally logged onto the actual payload itself for that further attention.
Is there a camera on the weather balloon?
Yes, we'll be sending up 3 live streaming cameras on that balloon. So you'll be able to see the balloon launch. You'll be able to see the city as it departs from the region. You'll be able to see all of those rockets below that payload, all those student-built and kid-built rockets as they all make their journey up to the edge.
Wow, where can we watch this?
So this will be available both on the Children's Museum and our website. It's the easiest link to get to it is edgeflight.com/CCM launch. We'll be running some other stuff and keep posted on social medias. Live streaming links will become available through that too.
It says you're self-taught in science and tech?
Correct. I didn't go through any practical formal education for the technology side. I came to LCCC, which is what brought me to the state, and since then launched a business out of there.
Huh, where'd you grow up at then?
Northeast Colorado, about 60 miles off the Kansas border.
Okay, so you're familiar with the territory, or the area at least.
Yeah.
Huh. How'd you get involved with the Children's Museum, Carson?
I kind of came into this role. I grew up in Wyoming, so this role was a really beautiful homecoming for me. I'm a scientist at heart. I'm formally trained in anthropology and conservation biology. I actually studied chimpanzees in Africa before I came back to Wyoming. So there's nothing that I haven't seen, you know? And I have lived in Cheyenne a little under a year and had been substitute teaching after grad school, and I liked educating, but I really missed science and have always liked kids. And the community catalyst coordinator position is perfect because I get to leverage learning and teaching with kids while also connecting the community with science initiatives and interactive programming. And the scientific outreach and the community aspect of this role is what really drew me to the Children's Museum.
Yeah, the Race for Space event, April 25th, 9 a.m. at the Cheyenne Children's Museum. The museum bills the event as an unforgettable day of rocket launches, robotics, and hands-on STEM exploration. What's our hands-on STEM exploration?
Part of that is the building of the rockets. But more than that, we are going to put together a small team of mission control kiddos that are going to work directly with Tate to do the launch the day of the event. Tate is amazing with the internet and has created an amazing simulation so kids will actually get to really act out like a true NASA Cape Canaveral style launch. There will be pre-flight checks, go, no go. Tate, do you want to expand on that at all? I think this is kind of your area. And this was really Tate's idea to have like a little team of kids that really get to do the launch and be the scientists behind it. So I'll let him take it from here.
Happily. And there's a lot that goes into a launch of a weather balloon style. And even at the scope that this is there's a lot of hands that need to be doing a lot of work. So why not best to get the children involved? And what that comes down to is there'll be a select number of individuals, select number of kids based on an application basis. Shove your applications in about next week. Start looking for that, where participants can be involved in the actual setup, the launch procedures, the countdown procedures, the weather checks, and a full hands-on experience when it comes down to it. And even taking that balloon all the way outside, releasing it themselves as well. There'll be other things inside of that and many, many other events. And if rockets doesn't sound cool to you, how about rovers? How about robotics? And there'll be that sort of aspect too, where you can custom build your own robot, your own Mars lander or moon lander, whatever you feel like, to have that and explicitly build it, race it, compete with it, and do some cool stuff with it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. How big is this weather balloon?
So with the student-built rockets, they're not too big. They're mostly paper-built, but the actual camera portion of it is about a little under a foot cubed. So 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches, give or take. So
yeah, so it's not too huge. Then, interesting. Sounds fascinating, guys. I want to watch this. That's what I'm waiting for. Edge Flight, how many people work with you, Tate?
Right now, we're a pretty small team. We're looking to grow. We've had some people in the past, but right now, our total team count at the current moment is 2.
You and another guy, or you and another guy or gal, huh? Interesting. Well, man, yeah, if you go, let's see if I closed it out or not, where I found that box, or just go to Edge Flight, and it's FLYTE.com. You can see it right across Tate's shoulder there to check out their website. I mean, you guys got to just be excited. You probably can't wait. The countdown's on for this event.
It is high stress, but such as we have exceptional team to work with, and we're going to make this happen.
How do we apply? Do we got to go to the museum? Is it on the website? How can the kids apply to be part of the team?
To be a part of the team, check us out on the actual launch page. So it's edgeflight.com/CCM launch. You can also RSVP there, find more details, and get other information upcoming about the event.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be looking forward to this, Carson, because this is your christening. This is your big first event.
This is my baby. And not to say that this has at all been just me. I have a really great team at the Children's Museum that all work really well together and are just as excited about this event, I think even more than some of the kids we know. And seeing what this museum has been for the community. I've only been in this role for a couple of months, but already seeing the impact that this museum has had among children and parents and the community at large, and getting to give back to the family that is responsible for this rocket launcher exhibit and ensuring that we have this ability to do lifelong learning and continue to be a community catalyst within not just downtown Cheyenne, but the Cheyenne community at large.
Yeah, well, and it's cool. What do we got? You're making take-home kits? You can even take something home with you.
Yeah, so the idea is that, we understand life is happening for people. You can't always come into the museum and spend the time to make the rocket and play with the rocket launcher. We get it. And so we are going to have kits set up. We're going to have 100 kits ready to go at the museum. The actual date on that is to be determined. So we're going to have 100 kits ready to go, and we will have all the materials that you need. The decorating is up to you. We want to see rocketry at its most creative. You can put your family name on it. You can draw, whatever you want to do. It's very flexible. We will provide the basics. And then the first 60 rockets that come back to the museum the week leading up to the launch, so the 19th through the 25th of April, will be the ones that go on the payload that actually go to the stratosphere.
Yeah, so Get on it, kids. Get to the Cheyenne Children's Museum. Here to be determined. Here the next week or so. Let Carson and the crew.
We will have kits ready
get the kids
to
ready.
take home, and you can decorate them, do with them what you would like, and then just make sure you bring them back to us so that we can put them aside and make sure that they will be ready to go for launch day.
Yeah, the Cheyenne Children's Museum's big event, Race to Space at the Children's Museum on April 25th, starting at 9 a.m. Well, Tate, Carson, thanks so much for coming on and telling us about it this morning.
Thanks so much for having us, Jeff.
We'll be right back after this.
JB Hunt now has 3 truck driving jobs in the Cheyenne area, and they're hiring Class A drivers for a local dedicated route. Drivers can make $78,000 a year and be home every night. Plus, medical benefits after 30 days on the job, also earning paid time off on your first day, and enjoy other perks like a company-matched 401k. As a company founded by a truck driver, JB Hunt is driven for you. So head to drivejbhunt.com to see the JB Hunt difference. That's drivejbhunt.com.
You're listening to the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Sometimes fatherhood
I'm the first Viking who wouldn't kill a dragon.
can feel like an epic battle.
But you will.